Interesting, interesting. Test. All right, test, test, test. All right. We hear people out there. This one over by. Yeah.
All right, I'm here. Can you hear me all right? This is
We
Jan.
can hear you now.
Okay.
You unmuted me mid-bite.
Oh,
Okay.
I see pictures or a list of folks.
Yeah, well, because she was gonna go to join me.
I like it like this.
Got Lisa, we got Jan. Mike. We do have a quorum.
I guess I gotta mute my audio.
That,
Yeah. We'll see if it changes.
And it's now time, so are we ready to rock? You ready?
Yeah.
You ready to go?
Ready?
All right, it's
It's a little bumpy, but we'll be good.
okay. So let's call this meeting to order. First one of the year, January 12th of 2021. Thank God 2020 is behind us. So Mayor Pro Tem Villalobos is not here. Councilmember Bunker,
Here.
Councilmember Shell Allen,
She can't.
Lisa, can you hear?
Lisa.
Here,
Councilmember
Yes.
McLeod. Got it.
yes,
She's on.
Quite a delay there. Councilmember McLeod is not here. And Councilmember Clinton. Here. And Mayor Devaney is present. We do have a quorum, but just barely. So let's rise and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. So that, first thing on the agenda tonight is a public hearing associated with a certificate of appropriateness for a house to be built over off of Skyline. Most council members know Skyline over there the front of the street falls within the certificate of, or excuse me, the scenic corridor, which requires a certificate of appropriateness for things being built. With that, let us talk about that. This is at 56 Skyline Drive.
You got that right?
They're building a small house, 960 square feet approximately, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, on a currently a vacant lot.
Did this go out with the read aheads?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just keep going. I don't know if I'm gonna look at the picture. I'll look for it.
So, which, it didn't go out with the Thursday read aheads, it went out today, maybe? So those of you who are out there in radio land who may not have come and picked the packet up, you probably don't have the picture, and we don't have it on the screen right now.
Oh, yeah.
But in your packet, there was a shot of the lot that they're going to build this on, a couple of ways, and then a diagram. I guess this house that they're looking at the front of, it was their example of.
That work, yeah.
Yeah, these pictures are kind of grainy.
Yeah. But basically, it's just a frame house that they'll put in there. It goes with a number of other houses that are out there.
Now, there's a picture of an already structure there. Are they planning on tearing that down, or it's just next to it?
I think it's next to it.
Oh, okay.
So what are these pictures of the house that we're looking at, and like the second, third?
The first and second pictures are of the lot and the houses on either side of it. The third picture of the single house looks like it's under construction, I believe, is the one that they say it's going to look like this from the front.
Oh, okay. So
Looks like
the pictures of this house is going to be similar to the one they're going to build.
Yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Because this house, it looks like it's about ready. They're about ready to move it. The skirting isn't on it.
They're not moving it, are they? They're actually building a new one.
Right, right. They said it's all going to be a party board.
I called her, I called her to make sure, because to me, it looked like this was already on the property, but she said, no, this is a house that it's going to, the material, she said it would be the same type of material and the same shape and size of this house that they, that someone else is building someplace else. The lot is vacant.
Here we go.
So on that subdivision, what are the standard sizes of the lots there? I mean, is this a half-acre lot or?
No. They're smaller than half acre, I believe.
It'd be nice to know what the size of the house is in relation to the lot, and so then we could ascertain what the setbacks are as well. Because this doesn't really show the size of the property.
Let me get the specs. I believe the lot is an acre.
You think? I don't think.
I believe. I have to go again.
It's 56 Skyline. So what's on the screen now is what is kind of the look front end, what it's going to kind of look like. That one, of course, is under construction, but porch, small house behind it.
Yeah, it says it's 960 square feet, 2 bedroom, 1 bath on Pier and Bean.
That's a side view of the one under construction, so you can try to see what that side of it looks like.
Mhm.
Now, for a certificate of appropriateness in the scenic corridor, they are in the city limits. They will have to go abide by the building codes, et cetera, Sam. They will
Yes,
have
sir.
to go abide by all the things that
Okay,
are in there.
okay.
This is basically
Just to approve the,
the exterior look and feel of what they're gonna build.
It's
I think
also
the city-
multi-use.
What's that?
It's also a multi-use.
That's what I was going to bring up. That zoning, we'll have to double check the zoning that structure can be put in.
Well, there's other houses up there. I mean, I'm sure there are houses.
If it's a current vacant lot and you're not continuing a non-conforming use, then you would have to apply the zoning district for that location, and that could be an issue in this case. Which is mixed use. Mixed use is defined as, it creates a dense housing environment where something like the buildings at the square in San Marcos, where you have businesses at the bottom, apartments and lofts at the top, that's something that is mixed use, so. That might be an issue in this case.
why would that be an issue if they're just building a home in multi-use?
Well, as much as I've been working on the zoning orders, I don't quite have it memorized. If you give me 1 second, I'll pull it up.
To answer your question, Sam, she pulled it up at 17.
Hey. Hello? Hello, can you guys
Hey,
hear me?
is that Mike?
I got technical problems. Working on Zoom, but I'm here with my phone, so I'm here. Hey, I'm here. So
All right, thank you.
I'm
And the mayor.
I'm working on it. I'll try to get on.
Okay, all right.
And the mayor just reported to me that it is 7/10 of an acre
All right, never mind.
lot size.
So unexpectedly, single-family detached homes are allowed in mixed use. Not what I would consider to be a mixed use land use, but here it is on our table. So it should apply as long as they meet the setback requirements.
Okay, this is a public hearing for the public. Anybody in the room want to ask questions about this one or make comments? Going once, going twice? All right, council members, anybody else got a comment they want to make? Let's go around the room. Lisa, you got anything to say?
No, no, sir.
And Mike, we're going over this.
No, I don't.
Okay, and Jan, you've had a shot already.
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, Sam. Okay, so.
Oh, wait, I have one last question. It appears to be a shingle roof, which I think is okay, and then parking, they just park on the ground or they just park on the road or, I mean, parking doesn't matter in the scope of the building of the house? I mean, that will come later, right, in terms of that? Okay.
It had anything to do with, I don't believe it has anything to do with the certificate of appropriateness for the scenic corridor.
Okay, just if the house is appropriate, okay.
For the, yeah.
If in fact it were a commercial situation, it might, but otherwise, no, it does not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, we will close the public hearing. That was an attempt to get information to the council from the folks, and that is closed. Oh, hell. Closed at 6:41 p.m. All right, that brings us to our regular session, and now we're at the section for public comments, general public comments. We have not received any in the email system for this, and so we have one here for the person present with Mr. Glaze. So you are up. You've got 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Bill Glaze. Catherine and I have lived on Northwest River Road since 91, so about 30 years. We love Martindale and we will live here for the rest of our lives. But I've never been happy with our city government, and I believe that Martindale would be just as great if we were not incorporated. My issues today have to do with the condition of our roads, particularly Northwest River Road and Lockhart Street. When we moved to Martindale, Northwest River Road was County Road 103, and it seemed to have been kept in reasonable condition by Caldwell County at that time. In the 30 years that we have lived here, the condition of these two streets have not really changed. No matter what we are told, our expectations are that nothing will really change as long as the city is in charge. I recently drove through the steep streets of Maxwell, a very poor Caldwell County town where the streets are taken care of by the county. The streets are in pretty good shape compared to our streets. If you doubt it, just go take a look. In the last week, we had a terrible rainstorm, and I counted over 30 new significant potholes on Northwest River Road. That ain't our fault. It's just that happened. But if we were a county road, I believe that the repairs would already be in progress. By the time ours gets fixed, we will likely have many more. Also take a look at the condition of the streets in Spring River Estates who have chosen not to be part of Martindale, and also the wonderful job the county has done on Southeast River Road. Our city will never be able to, in my opinion, our city will never be able to adequately serve this community considering their debt, payroll, and police. If we disincorporate, all that would go away, and I and most of the Martindale residents wouldn't be paying you over $1,000 a year in property tax. On the last note, I had a conversation with our chief of police last week, and he said that he would take some action the next day. The issue is that the speed limit on Northwest River Road going north from town to the beginning of the Harrison property is posted at 25 miles an hour. Going toward town in that same period, it's 30 miles an hour, except for the S turn, which is a warning posted at 20 miles an hour. Apparently nothing has been done because a new sign needs to be put up. Because of the condition of the road, all of the walkers, families and children on Northwest River Road from Harrison property at least, I believe the speed limit should be no more than 25 miles an hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is all public comments we have for the evening. We're moving on to
Mayor.
the mayor's report. Okay, we on order. Yeah. Okay, COVID-19. Let's talk a little bit about that. There are two vaccines out there now. I'm sure everybody knows about that. They're out to be administered. The priority groups have been by priority groups and by authorized distributors. Within the past week, the state has done a little pivot on that and changed the distribution allocations to put more of the vaccine into the large city, what they're calling them hubs, so that they think they dole them out faster that way. Within Caldwell County, the HEB over in Lockhart is a distribution center. If for local folks who want to try to get in line, you can call their pharmacy and see what's available. There is a location in Luling as well. And I don't know the name off the top of it, but if you go to the state website, they have them listed now as to who has them and how much they have. I'm sure that runs behind time. So it'd be better if you talk to the people directly at the locations. And of course, there's a number of locations up in San Marcos, if you can get it. And then your doctors, your personal doctors ought to have as much information on how to get the vaccine as they can. From the city standpoint, the coronavirus relief fund grant that we had Of course, that ended on 12/31. That was part of the legislation that was passed back in the spring of last year, early summer. We submitted $22,000.66 or $22,066.58 for reimbursement. So far, we've received just under $14,000 of that. We still got some, we think we've submitted everything we're going to be able to get out of that. So we're waiting for the remaining $9,000 or so to come in. And we reduced the daily cleaning of City Hall to, looked like it was going to be twice per week, but for the price of twice per week, we're going to get it done 3 times a week. He came by today and talked about that. So we're still, as the case counts are high across Texas and rising, even in Caldwell County now, we're going to continue on with some cleaning, just to be on the safe side here at City Hall, at least for another month, and we'll play it by ear based off of case counts and the like. The other thing that's coming up is our city elections. May 1st of 2021 is election day. There'll be 3 places up for election. The mayor's spot plus place 2, which is Jan, and place 5, which is Sam. Application period opened up
You will be opening that on the 13th?
tomorrow. Tomorrow. So if you're interested in serving on the city council or be the mayor, please come in and get an application. It's time to go do that. A fine Martindale tradition is to not put in applications till the very last second. That's hard on the city staff to go do that, but they'll be able to handle it if that's what you choose. To try to break that, I will announce that I will not be running for re-election. So the mayors won't have an incumbent to go worry about. Somebody out there is going to need to come forward and want to be a mayor.
When's the deadline for the applications? Excuse my interruption.
The 12th, I believe, of February.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, we have traditionally used the last several years the Caldwell County Elections Office. But after the November elections, they had, there wasn't a very big office, so it wasn't like a herd of people walked out the door. I believe they had 2 and most of them left. So they are struggling over with the Caldwell County Elections Office to get personnel in place to go off and go handle this for this go round. And it doesn't look like they're going to be able to go help us this time around. However, some of the experienced person that used to run that office is available to go assist us, and we have engaged her, Miss Oldendorf, to go off and help us walk through the May election. She will be doing the kind of stuff she did for them over there for us. Of course, we're on a much, much smaller scale. That decision isn't totally finalized yet, but will be next week, depending on what we hear from the San Marcos Independent School District. We've talked to Caldwell County and the school district, and they are in negotiations on how to handle the school district election for Caldwell County residents. And depending on what happens out of that is where we will decide we're either going to go try to go merge with them on this election or just do it on our own. But right now it looks like on our own is probably going to be the best bet. So we'll get word out to you at the next meeting on how that falls down. Okay. With that, that's the mayor's report for this week. And that brings us to Jared.
Good evening, council. So first thing, I want to update you on the zoning ordinance update. I've been working on defining key terms and highlighting other issues that were brought up in previous conversations. I should have a preliminary update to you for your consideration next council meeting, whenever that may be. So the 19th or the 2nd, I think is where we're looking like on terms of the calendar. Using track changes, and so all changes are annotated and clearly matrix back to where they came from. And then I've also annotated each definition to an example, either state statute or other city ordinance that definition is borrowed from. So you'll have confidence that I'm not just winging terms on these things. So there's some precedent to what we're trying to do. Yes.
Yes, sir. When you refer to the use table, are you talking about the supplemental use table?
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, key terms within the use table. So for example, our current use table, which we showed earlier, I closed that window since, you can consider it the supplemental use table. It's where defined land uses are either permitted by right, require a specific use permit, or not permitted. And so a lot of terms within that table, such as a farm orchard or ranch, was not defined. A duplex was defined as including up to 5 residential units, which is something that's being corrected. And so there's a number of terms within there that were not defined. And so in an attempt to make the zoning ordinance more easily administered by the city staff, we're going through and defining those terms, in addition to looking at other potential zoning updates. Those might mainly coming from 2 sources: reviewing the preliminary zoning plans that are included in the city's master plan. So the city last did a comprehensive master plan in 1997, and this document formed the basis of zoning within the city at that time. State law requires a comprehensive plan as part of the zoning, and so I'm working with Kent right now to understand how that would apply in this case. So if our master plan was a 20-year plan and we've expired that, what kind of legal considerations do we have when we look at making changes or updates? Other thing that it includes is zoning regulations in districts related to open spaces or recreational use, and also follows the flood maps at that time. And so one of the concerns we've kicked around council meetings previously is, how do you handle development within flood zones? Should zoning changes be a part of that, or should we just administer those developments under the flood prevention regulations? So there could be a use for using zoning to also address that issue from a land use perspective, in terms of open spaces or recreational use only. Or district overlays. One of the examples I found was having a flood map district overlay with land use regulations attached to that as a supplement to their flood prevention ordinances. So I'll have some of those things teed up, ready for discussion on the next meeting. Other things we've been working on are utilities. As we discussed previously, we had a number of power supply issues at our lift stations. Our electrical engineer visited and inspected the wastewater lift stations last week, and we're waiting on the report of those findings, and we'll take appropriate action depending on those results. Another thing that the city staff is working on, or has experienced increasingly since about November, but definitely since COVID began, is the number of delinquent accounts. We're experiencing a significant rise in past due accounts. This last billing cycle had about 90 delinquent accounts that missed the due date for that bill. And that's a rise from, I would consider, an anecdotal baseline of about 10 per month. There's a couple reasons for this, I believe. One, the big one is COVID-19, obviously. And during COVID-19, we streamlined the application procedures for people to be put on payment plans, and also made that application available online to help expedite those requests that may be from people who may have been impacted in their jobs or financial status because of COVID-19. And we were providing longer grace periods. We would provide multiple notices and delayed shutoffs for some accounts as we tried to work with those people to get them, and if we suspected that they had a COVID-19 related issue or not. So we were being kind of lenient on when we were sending shutoff notices. As the problem has grown, we are addressing that differently. We're starting to reduce those grace periods and starting to send out shutoff notices because of the size of the number of delinquent accounts. It's becoming unmanageable, and I think probably not rightly or wrongly, but there might have been some recognition on some people that we were being more lenient. So we're trying to promote folks who are impacted under the current economic conditions to register with a payment plan, and buy down and get their account square.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What would be an example of something you would shut off? Their garbage or their sewer or what?
So it depends on what the nature of their service. There's essentially everybody in the city receives trash service. So if all they receive is trash service, then we would contact TDS and have their trash can and recycling can removed, or cart removed. And if they were also on wastewater, if you have wastewater services, then your water would be shut off. We shut the water off as well.
Working in conjunction with Martindale Water Supply.
Exactly. So we work with the Martindale Water Supply Corporation. We have a standing contract with them for the administration of shutoffs. That's been in place for quite some time. And so right now, I don't think we have any water shutoffs at the current time, but we are sending notices and notifying residents that if they are behind, they need to come in or apply online for a payment plan or get their account paid in full.
Jared, I have a question. And if
Yeah.
if you stated this, I may have missed it. What is our criteria for giving grace, for giving some type of ability to be late? Do we determine? Well, I'll just let you answer that before I speak.
Yeah. So at the beginning of COVID, we were being less aggressive, if you will, in our interpretation of the ordinance. The ordinance says that in the case of a delinquent account, first charge against any existing deposit. After that, provide a notice as soon as possible. And then if that notice has been 15 days after that notice has been sent out, that if that bill has not been paid, or that person has been put on a payment plan, they get their services shut off. And so we have used the ambiguity of that as soon as possible for setting a shut off notice. We've used some discretion there during the height of the COVID, and going back into April and May and June. And since then, we have started with our most delinquent accounts or the highest dollar value accounts and started to get those corrected, get those either on a payment plan or start the shut off services. At that time, we also had a significant level of employee turnover in the June timeframe. And so during that process, we discovered we did not have a documented, repeatable process for managing delinquent accounts other than what is prescribed within the ordinance. And
Which states?
What's that?
Which states?
Which states that a delinquent account would have their existing deposit credited towards their past due amount and receive a notice of a potential shut off. And
Okay, so you've answered my question. So what I am understanding is that we do not have any criteria on our books that give staff direction as to whom and for how long grace would be permitted. Hypothetical consideration or thought process is, specifically during this pandemic, we have people who have lost their jobs because their job may not be essential and they are no longer employed. And so getting employment has been difficult. Therefore, they've collected unemployment. So in my thought process, would it be remotely viable for us to have something? I don't know if this would be by ordinance or by policy. That would be a Kent question, but to have some guidelines, as someone would have to be literally collecting unemployment, which means their income has reduced, some type of proof that, I mean, we're all in a hardship of sorts as a result of COVID. However, some of us have the ability to justify that and prove it up, and others do not. So
this grace period, we are prevented from providing free services to residents. Our ordinances and regulations specifically state that the city cannot provide free services and will not provide free services. So this
Right.
grace period is only related to shutting off services. So that's where we're not canceling any bills or writing off any bills or anything like that. That sort of decision would have to come to council for consideration. We may have one account to bring to council at a future meeting to discuss that sort of issue. And it has very unique circumstances that I think I would recommend at that time that council would consider. For now, when we look at payment plans, there are specific criteria that they have to meet to qualify for payment plan. It has to be unusual hardship, and they have to have the capacity to perform meet the requirements of that payment plan. So they have to be able to have a job or have some sort of income to do that. So when you don't have a job or you don't have income, you wouldn't qualify for a payment plan necessarily, or don't have the ability to pay. Then we're in a tough spot in terms of what do we do. That's the situation of one account that we'll bring to council in the future.
And would this situation fall into any of the relief funds that have come down from higher ups from state and or federal levels?
We have not received any grant funding for this purpose.
It sounds to me like if we have 90 accounts, and I'm assuming you don't have that broken down into wastewater versus solid waste, do you?
No, and most of those are less than 30 days delinquent. There's a significant number that are between 30 and 60. And I don't have the number top of my head, but I don't believe we have much more than five to six greater than 60 days delinquent at this point for those who are not on a payment plan. Now, we do have those who are beyond even 90 days delinquent, but they are on a payment plan.
Okay.
Let me go remind everybody in here is that we, of course, when we a couple of years ago when we started this, when we started looking at ordinances and trying to follow them, we felt one of the things that was pointed out by some residents was that the solid waste ordinance does not specifically describe shutting off water as a penalty for late payments. And we talked about that significantly, talked about the council reviewed how we should handle that. The answer was, let's just follow the ordinance. So they've been doing that, but it pointed out that the fact that our two ordinances, one for solid waste and one for wastewater, were not consistent with each other on how to go off and handle late charges. Although our processes that we were using here with the city staff were consistent. They were just doing them both the same way because they're both utilities and that's what most cities do.
Right.
So there's some activity in there. And then when we got into the front end of last year, we weren't in too terrible bad shape, still working, just calls and letters. But when COVID hit, there was a moratorium on shutting off utilities. And I don't remember if it was a governor's order or whether it was just
It was.
recognition that the order to stay evictions is similar to shutting off somebody's water that's in the middle of COVID and lost their source of income and da, 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 da. So for 6 months, we kind of just were playing it by ear, waiting for COVID to resolve itself and waiting for some of this activity to settle down so we could go off and go fix that. The point tonight in Jared's thing is he and the city staff have recognized this is something that needs to be go be worked. I think his point is that there is some work to be done with the ordinances. They need to be consistent. They need to spell out the things that he's tried to describe verbally of setting up the process, and that's what that last bullet was, right? Somewhere in there it's talking about changing or creating a repeatable process to go off and go address these things. The 90 number is scary, but we've seen that before. A lot of times at the holiday periods and or when the weekends fall on certain days, the 9th or 10th gets on people very quickly, and it goes by them, and all of a sudden they get an orange letter that says, hey, you missed the payment due day, and then the payment starts flowing in, and et cetera. The real kicker is the 5 or 6 that are out there that are now several months delinquent, and they're working those one at a time, trying to understand what to do. At least one of them has got on a payment plan.
A couple of them been on payment plan.
Okay, so a couple of them now are on payment plans. The point is that the council needs to help Jared and Dwayne and Sylvia and everybody with, when they come in and say, this is what we want the ordinances to read like, so we can go do this on a regular basis, repeatable, and be able to explain to everybody, y'all need to listen and be willing to make some changes to those ordinances.
Absolutely. I will remind when we get to number 9 on our agenda for future items that this really needs to come to the top of our priority list for ordinances. I was on the council many years ago when the delinquent accounts were just random number, probably it's not exactly, but it was in excess of $80,000. And so this can snowball very, very fast. It took a lot of years and a lot of effort to get all of that up to date, and it has been going well. So if our ordinance needs to be dealt with, then I certainly will do whatever I'm asked of to do to help get that back in check.
Yeah, and we're looking at that, whether we'll need an ordinance change. If we need an ordinance change, what's needed. It may just be a internal process procedures that's strictly followed. The change about how to handle trash pickups was something that how we handle delinquent accounts for trash only services was an issue that we brought up when we made that ordinance change of how are we going to have that forcing function to compel compliance without the ability to turn off water. That is some of what happened here, not completely, but that's some of it. And so I think of those 6 or 7 that are more than 90 days delinquent, I think 5 are probably trash only services. 4 or 5 are trash only services. So more than half of them. And the others that weren't were, COVID related hardships. And so we're getting this corrected. So we're establishing a repeatable process. We'll have recommendations to make in the future if we need to, including potential changes to our contract with the Martindale Water Supply Corporation and how that fits into a neater process, and making sure what we're doing lines up with what they're doing, and that we all have that documented and how shutoffs are managed. We're also doing a self-audit of inactive accounts. So a renter moves away, their final bill lingers and lingers and lingers, that's another issue that we're investigating currently. And then one of the things that really helped us get on track was we had our prior city utility clerks doing proactive billing collection calls, and that practice hasn't continued in the form that it was practiced previously. Right now, we're down one person for that desk, and it's getting overloaded, so we don't have the ability to do that quite as much as we used to. But that process really helped prevent some of these, especially on the 30 days, less than 30 days delinquent, or minor delinquency issues, get those corrected quickly so they don't snowball. So
Right.
we're trying to get that going. Yeah.
And let me just throw in the part that you just stated in regards to renters who move out and they don't pay their final bills. I don't know exactly where it is, but I do believe, well, I'm living proof of it. If a renter moves out and doesn't pay the bill, that bill gets reverted to the property owner. And then
Yep.
all rules apply to the property owner that we have on, on the record so far.
Yeah, and we're still
Including
going.
shutting off utilities.
Right, exactly. So we're going through those records, making sure our I's are dotted and T's and crossed before we pull any action, to make sure we understand who it is that we're what is owed, and we're applying deposits that may be on the account, but under, maybe it's the owner's name instead of the renter's name, and how do we apply that to past due amounts? So we're doing a self audit on those. We're digging deep into them. The other thing that causes or contributes to the number of delinquencies is having an antiquated billing system, electronic billing system. And we continue to conduct market research for affordable solutions. The best we've seen at this point is probably about $6,000 to $7,000 a year, which is half of our IT budget.
Yeah.
And it's a significant expense there. It would probably come out of the utility budget, but as a comparison, I mentioned the IT budget.
I've not seen a utility application lately. However, just in this particular issue, updating those applications, and if in fact there needs to be a space on the application or the form that, is this property a rental? If so, who's the owner? Needing the owner's information. That may already be there. I do not know.
We're getting that instituted recently. It's for some of those that may be a little bit older accounts, that are rented for a couple of years and then moved away. That's something
I
that
got
we're
it.
looking at.
I see. Thank you for what you're doing.
Any other questions on this issue before I continue on? Okay. And the last one, want to bring City Council's awareness to the Walton Cotton Center. They have submitted their application for their wastewater treatment plant for their development near Highway 80. The permit application should be available for you viewing at City Hall any day now. I don't believe it was provided today. So in the notice that TCEQ put out, they said, if you want to review the permit application, it's available at 409 Main Street, Martindale, and we don't have it. So we're working with the developer, and they're working with their engineer to get us a copy of that so we get public viewing. This notice is a preliminary notice, so if you want to request a public comment or a public meeting on this issue, you can go to the TCEQ website and make that request. Right now, this is basically the first notice of several that will likely come out on this. And so, if one of the stipulations on if there's a significant degree of public interest in the application, or if requested by a local legislator, they will make the developer provide a public meeting on this issue. So my recommendation is it would probably be good for the citizens to understand what's going on, but that's for city's council decision if we want to pursue that as a city. You're welcome to as a private citizen.
And that
And-
spurs a question to me, and again, maybe I've missed it. Where are we on our city TCEQ application and permit process?
So the permit was renewed in 2020, and every year, I think we submit some more forms to pay a small amount of money, and they keep it going for another 5 years. So I think we're due for a renewal in 2025.
Do you know what
2024.
month? Do you know what month it was accepted in 2020?
February.
Yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
February. Okay, great. Thank you.
It's for 5 years, so it'll be February 2025 when it expires.
Got it. Thank you.
Jared, I got a question for you, sir.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, is this that, I mean, I know we talked about this, they're having a package plan. Are they still planning to dump into our evaporation pond system?
No. So the treated water would dump into Hemp Hill, is that it? Hemp Hill Creek, which flows into another creek, which eventually flows into the San Marcos River south of the city limits.
Because, we talked about a partnership on that deal. Yeah, we probably should have since this is such a hot issue for all these, these package plants coming in, we should definitely we should get involved and have a public meeting on this. It's a big issue.
Mhm. Right, and it might be
Understand.
worth for more recent council members to get a review of the development agreement and what's included in that, because there is within that development agreement some language allowing the city to use that wastewater treatment facility for a fee and for future developments and things. So it'd be worth for all of us to take another look at it since it's been a few years.
Agreed.
And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Jared. Moving on to the financial report. Dwayne, you're up.
Thank you all. Hope you had a chance to receive the report this afternoon and take a look at it. As of today, you see the bank balances with the general fund having about $58,000 in it. That's due to property tax revenue flowing in currently. I've already had to move $100,000 out of that account into our tax pool account. And you see the street and road balance, the court, the police, and the utility fund and deposit fund. The community development account is the grant account that was mentioned earlier. We are awaiting additional funds to come through that account and reimburse the city for expenses that have already been incurred. If we go down to the tax pool accounts, see the emergency fund sits at 207,000. The Public Funds Investment Act fund, you see the various designations of the money there. The general fund overflow is where I mentioned I put the 100,000 of excess funds that since the revenues come in early in the year. Hotel tax continues to grow. We had 3 nice size payments this last month, almost approaching $30,000 now. You see some of the utility deposits are held there as well. And then you see long-term capital improvement fund up to 128. That includes the $65,000 we moved there last month for future road project. And for the patrol car. That order has been placed, financing secured, just waiting for the car to be built. And that will be our first payment at $12,000. And then you see the comptroller fine number at $355,000. The next report is the general fund budget report. And yeah, you were there.
Was in there? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You see the property tax revenue. We've through December, we've collected half of the revenue, property tax revenue for the year. And then you see the other line items going down through. We are one quarter of the way through the year. So if you look at the percent of budget over there, you're looking at 25% as kind of being the baseline. And so there we are, 40% of our revenue through the first quarter. Payroll, you see it's 24% of budget. So that's personnel expenses are on track. Reimbursements from the utility on track. Operating expenses are at about 21%. While I was reviewing this over here earlier, that first line item, that advertising, large amount of that money actually needs to be moved to election expense. And I have done that. It was notices for the general election. So that will appear in better order next report. There you see the overhead reimbursement from the utility as well, and then other expenses.
I have a question before we get too much further.
Yeah.
You stated back on that original, that first page with the bank statement balance, that $100,000 was moved out of the general fund into tax pool. Just remind us, and also for the public, what is the trigger that?
Well, see that total First Lockhart Bank subtotal there. That
Yep.
number needs to be kept below $250,000.
I got it.
So you can see if I'd left that 100 there, we'd be approaching it. We still wouldn't be over. So anyway, that's the trigger.
Got it. And so when it gets moved over to tax pool, that just means it doesn't mean that it's not available for us. It just means that it's beginning to earn some interest, correct?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Thank
Not
you.
much, and it's available overnight.
Yeah, thank you.
The next page would be the vendor payments for the month of December. If there's anything out of the ordinary there. The Caldwell County Treasurer near the bottom there, that large payment was election costs for the general election. The CDW government that you see there, that's the cost of our new conference equipment here. That will be reimbursed by the feds. I have that requested.
This Haney company, is that expected to be one of our last payments? Are we almost?
No. Yeah, let's see. I saw audit over here on the previous page. We've only spent $8,200 of a $20,000 budget.
Okay.
So no, we've still got a ways to go. And
all those checks outside.
yeah. And then on down through anything else. See, the library contribution was made in December. Hey. Hey, there's anything else there? The next report would be the utility fund.
I had a question about a recent expense possibly. At the last meeting concerning Guardiola Park, we had the engineers which reviewed an elaborate drawn up design of the parking and the streets, and I don't know where that cost fell under, because it was quite an elaborate drawing of the park and streets and all that. So
yeah, on the previous report, you'll see the payments to him.
I don't know if those are inclusive of that work though. It could have been. We'd have to go. Yeah. Probably.
There you go, Freeland Turk.
So it doesn't say which amount covered that?
They went into engineering.
But I mean, was it 1,000 or 2,000 or?
Like I said, I don't remember the cost. The 2,000, I believe, is the survey.
Yeah, that was, the survey was 2,000.
1,037.90 probably had that and some other stuff in it.
Only the lift
Or
station.
it may be that it's coming, I don't remember. One of those. There's one that we just got here a couple of days ago, so we wouldn't be in there.
I can take that for action and get it back to you.
Yeah, because I was thinking that if we, as I've heard before, that if we have some expense over $1,000, that it needs to go to council. And I just wasn't sure, because that was somewhat of a surprise to see such great elaborate drawings. And so I don't know how much, I'd like to know how much that costs.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the utility fund, I suppose. Yes, you see $80,000 collected the first quarter, 26%, so we're on track. And this is billings. As Jared said, we do have some delinquent accounts. I looked at the computer here before I came up, about $8,600 of delinquent accounts. We bill about 28,000 a month. So those are the numbers that we're looking at there.
I'm going to request, Mr. Anderson, that going forward until we sort of get out of this COVID delinquent snowball, that information be highlighted and put into your report at our meetings,
Okay.
so that we can stay at every single meeting abreast of where we are, because that's, in my opinion, the only way we're going to not snowball is to stay on top of it, at least with our knowledge.
Okay,
Thank you.
yes, it's no problem. Okay, so net income at the bottom, you see, is about $8,600, which is about what I just said we have delinquent. So I guess we're kind of breaking even cash flow right now, year to date. Okay, and the next report should have the vendor payments. Not a lot of extra items going on right now.
As I am seeing Bluebonnet Electric at the top, I personally was going to make a phone call, but it seems like there's quite a few streetlights that are out.
Yeah, if you'll let me know, I regularly notify them.
Okay.
And usually it's the mayor that comes in and says, hey, there's a light out on pole number 602.
Right.
And I send them an email and they take care of it.
And also for the public to know, every street light pole does have a number on it. And when that, if in fact a residence light is out, then what you're suggesting is to call the office instead of Bluebonnet directly with that light pole number, and that you will take care of it. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Great.
that's right. And I usually follow up and drive by, at night and make sure it's fixed in a reasonable time. So,
Great.
yeah.
Thank you.
All righty.
Did you get the one at the post office?
No, I haven't noticed that one. Is there one out there?
Got the one at Crockett and
Close.
Lockhart. Not
Yeah,
Crockett, Lockhart, Bowie and Lockhart.
There's one right at the post office, and it is out.
Okay, well, I'll check that out as well.
Thank you.
And I think that's all I have finance-wise. And I'll try to get the rest of the information to the auditors so they can get their report done, within the next month or so. And we'll get last year officially in the books at that time. Thank you.
All right. That brings us to the court. Is the judge on?
He emailed me late and said he, emergency happened and he was not going to be on.
So, all right. So council has, you got this one in there somewhere? Council has his report. He did come by and provide that today. I'm an expert on all this. Any questions from the council on the judge's report? Going once, going twice, done. Police report, chief's out, hadn't got a blotter. He's been out since, New Year's Eve with on COVID quarantine and or a suspected COVID case. But he has, received a negative test here recently, and his quarantine period is up Thursday, I believe, so he'll be back in a couple of days, but he has not been with us. I will tell y'all that we've had a number of instances. Of course, Harry's been in this a number of times over the last 9 months, and we've dodged it pretty good. But this go round, I don't think he did, but I don't know that for a fact.
We had another officer get exposed this last weekend too.
Another officer get exposed this week. Yeah, we had another officer about 2 months, in December that was out for several times because of quarantine due to work, other work exposures, et cetera. So it's been a real challenge ever since November, putting people on the street on this. So, but they're doing the best they can. All right, with that, let's move on to the boards and commissions. Do we have anybody here from the Historic Commission tonight? Can you make the list up to see if we got anybody out there that we can?
Oh, yeah, let's see.
Try this. I don't see Craig. Charlie's there. Okay, so nobody from the Historic District. Parks, you want to talk about anything, Sam?
Yeah, I'll be brief because I know we have a big agenda tonight, but I noticed down in phase one that the survey was completed in phase one. So the north and south boundaries of phase one have been established. I have walked that with one of our friends of the park, Sean McDonald. We noticed that there's quite a great expanse of land on the northern side of phase one that extends to the river. Quite a beautiful section of land. A great part of the beach also is there to be looked at. It appears though that since the leaves have fallen off and we could see the clear spaces that we need to get some bulldozing and some clearing done there and to figure out which trees we want to save. So by next meeting, I will have some proposal or have some bids to be presented to the city council. So I would like that to be a discussion item, maybe not an action, but definitely a discussion item for improvements of phase one. Also recently, Guardiola Park has been designated as a park. So I would like to see improvements made, slight improvements made in Guardiola Park, such as perhaps a picnic table, a couple of benches. One major expense that I would like to see at Guardiola Park would be the implementation of a water meter. I have discussed this with Martindale Water Supply. The cost will be $1,150. I would like to see a water meter be installed there. So that will be another discussion item that I would like to discuss. So improvements to Guardiola Park and even suggestions for what we could do with the park, perhaps a small dog park, a community garden. I would like to get input from the new Parks Advisory Committee on things that we can do with Guardiola Park. And then we could start on the volunteer committee and install the 2 other trash cans that I have bought or the city has purchased for Allen Bates Park. So I'm very excited about the $19,000 that we have to spend on the parks. I know probably 7,000 or 8,000 of that needs to go to the mowing for the summer, but that still gives us ample money to make improvements at Guardiola Park. And as I said, install a meter, make improvements, and start making improvements in phase 1. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Before we get off the parks on phase 1, Sam, I've challenged or requested that Mike Home give us a quote on putting in, vibrating in some metal posts to mark those edges so that we don't lose that.
Okay.
I haven't talked to him since the first of the year, but
I did install some T-posts myself on the south side, so
I just wanted to let you know so that you know, share that with the Parks Committee or whatever. But we need to get that done this month.
Yes, sir. I think so as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Planning and zoning, Lisa, you got anything?
Just the fact that phone calls continue to come in. There are a couple of situations where applications have been sought out. I cannot say that they've been submitted yet, but in relation to subdivisions, and I'm talking about like small parcels of property, a property owner just wanting to subdivide their own property, as well as inquiries. So we continue to have activity. People really, really like the city of Martindale and want to, in some kind of way, be a part of it. That's all.
We're also having a meeting next Tuesday, correct, Lisa? We're having a planning and zoning meeting.
I'm looking. I'm pulling my calendar. I remember we did discuss that.
I have it on my calendar. I just want to.
I have it on my calendar as well. I also have. Yeah. You know what? The reason we have it on our calendar. Do you have P&Z on your calendar or just the city council?
I thought it was just P&C for next Tuesday.
Jared, help out.
So I think what's happened is the city council passed a resolution to hold council meetings every first and third Tuesday. And that was during when we're down to 3 council members. That has not been rescinded or changed. So it's been a kind of a standing understanding, if you will, that third council meeting would also serve as an opportunity to discuss planning and zoning issues.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So there's nothing scheduled or.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get to the end here.
Okay.
So whether, if that's that, right now, it is considered a regular council meeting next week. But of course, we can always add planning and zoning at a drop of the hat. So last commission report would be the San Marcos River Board. Joy, I don't see her on there, but I do see Charlie. Oh, Joy's there.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, Joy, you gonna share anything with us?
I'm trying to turn on my camera. It's not coming on, but I will say that I don't have too much to report. We continue to follow the wastewater treatment and discharge plans for Cherryville development, the Mayan, the HK Realty development. We are following the trash situation at Skull, which of course is much improved with this cold weather. And we're keeping the eye on the Highway 110 bypass construction. But the most important thing that I want to point out too is that 3 of our members' terms expire this month. I sent an email to this effect. This is a good opportunity for anybody, in Martindale to participate and volunteer for this really gratifying board. And I'm sure once COVID passes, there's going to be tons of people wanting to get out there and participate with anything river. So if you know anybody who wants to climb on board. Once again, 3 of our members' terms expire now this month. They, all 3, including myself, are willing to carry on until volunteers are found. And then next, a year from now, the remaining 4 members, their terms will expire. So.
Joy, I have a question. We have requested from the Historic Commission to have a list of names and when terms expire.
Okay.
And so I don't know if Jared and the mayor have a current list of your board, but that would certainly be helpful so that that information could as well be put on the website for people to see organically that those are positions that are opportunity to be filled.
Absolutely. I'll get that to him.
Joy, I had a question. Sam Clinton here. Can you just in a few sentences describe the bridge of 110 over the river, what type of bridge it is?
You know what? It's not over the water yet, but I haven't personally kayaked that stretch, but I know Virginia and possibly Charlie, maybe.
I have, Joy.
Have you?
Yeah, they got the pylons in.
Good, because we were really concerned about the silt control and whatnot. So have you noticed any ill effects from the construction?
Well, it's been real dry lately. That issue would come up if we had a heavy rain event, but it looked okay for what I could see. They do have silt fences. They do have heavy rock material down on there. And like I say, they're just putting the pylon. The pylons are in, so it should go. They're going pretty much fast tracked on that project. So.
And are they using gabions? Do you know?
What's that?
Are they using gabions?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank
Any
you,
other
Joy.
questions?
All right, thank you, Joy. Moving on to agenda item 7, consent items. We have one set of minutes, which were from the 15th of December. And then we also have the accounts payable, which doesn't have much on it.
I make a motion, we accept the consent items for the minutes and accounts payable.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anybody want to talk? I hear nothing. Jan in favor, Sam's in favor. Lisa
Aye.
and Mike.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, it gets us to agenda item 8, discussion action items. So with that, let's go to the first one. First one is discussion action on approving the certificate of appropriateness application for 56 Skyline Drive in Martindale. So this is the one we talked about in the public session. Now's the decision point time. Anybody got a problem with this? Let's go around the room. Sam?
No, I don't.
Mike?
No, I don't.
Lisa?
No issue.
And Jan?
I have no problem.
Okay, so somebody make a motion to approve it.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 56 Skyline Drive.
I'll second it.
And Sam is okay, you say?
Yes, sir.
And Mike?
Okay, aye.
This is 4-0. All right, so that one passes 4-0. The next one is discussion action on the long-term capital improvement project. So in the last, the 12-15 meeting, we talked about the process we've been going through to go determine the road. In early December or late November, whenever it was, we moved the funds over to continue filling that up. We're now at 128,000 that we can spend on road improvements. So the next step was to pick which road we wanted to go try to do this on. We reviewed the original spreadsheet. We sent that out. We're going to go over that in a minute. Sam got his inputs in today, and so we added those. And so the price in your the spreadsheet in your packet and the one that went out last Thursday has been updated with Sam's things to what we're going to look at on the screen here in a minute. So we'll see that. There was a question that Mike had about, let's go look at the way that Caldwell County overlaid some roads and see what they think. He wanted to get the engineering guy out there to go do that with him. And we did that on the 23rd. Mike, I'm going to read through these, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk if you want to.
Okay, I appreciate that, sir. Thank
the
you.
overlay process, of course, used on Old Martindale Road, it was definitely would be cheaper than a total rip up and rebuild of the roads. It can be effective if the road base is sound. Turk agrees with that. I think we all agree with that. But most of our roads don't fit that category. This process does not address the drainage issues which causes the road base failures, or is a major contributor to road base failures. It doesn't address the road edge deterioration that we've had. And of course, the example that we reviewed didn't have any kind of disruption to the road that we've had in most of our city streets when we've installed the wastewater treatment system. So when you look at our city streets, the pictures we've showed in the past, when you drive around, you can see where the sewer lines are, and there's a dip there, and you can tell that that's where it's falling at. So Mike, at that time on that day, you did agree that the roads with the failing road base will need to go through our rebuild process. So you want to comment on that, or you agree with that?
I mean, I thought, aren't we going to have? I would like to have an expert look at, say, Northwest River Road, Lockhart Street, Main Street. I'm not an expert. I don't know the background of our engineer, but you know, I did talk to Ed Thurio, and he said that they would gladly come out with his road guy and look at these particular roads and give us their professional opinion as a courtesy. I think that would be a good thing to do, to let the experts look at it. For example, I do agree, some of these roads, most of the secondary roads, there's some that are really in bad shape. But it would be best, I think, if we did have an expert look at these main thoroughfares. Because if you look at them, I mean, the middle of the road is solid. It's the edges are the problem. And just going back over to the old Martindale Road over by Three Dudes Winery, they got issues too. There's no ditches over there. They have the same issue that we do with our roads. And by the way, that road was capped about 1.5 years ago, and it seems to be holding up well. My only thing is, I'd like to get the most bang for the buck. You know, if we could just analyze the cost, and because we could get a lot more roads fixed with that overlay process. And I think it'd be good, it'd be beneficial if we could just have a meeting and let the experts decide if it's possible.
Thomas on there, I guess
Yeah, I might have to unmute him.
see if we can do that.
No, he should be able to speak.
Thomas, you out there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, there he is. I guess Mike doesn't think you're an expert. You want to go address any of that?
Hey, I didn't say that. I did not.
Kind of did, Mike.
Yeah, you kind of did.
Well, if you want to throw me under the bus, it's fine. I just saying, just Mr. Turk, I got all the respect in the world for you, but you don't do this every day. You know, let's have a guy that does this every day and see what they do. We all looked at the old Martindale Road. It's very similar to what we have, you know, and let's let these guys that do it on a daily basis. And they're offering it for no charge. So I think it would be beneficial at least to look into it.
So Thomas, you've
Well-
been on our roads a number of times. Talk to us about this.
Hopefully tonight we'll come away with some streets that have been prioritized. And once we have that list, I can easily and very inexpensively do an evaluation of the pavement. It's something I've done many, many times over my career. So I think getting the county folks involved is added expertise, especially the guys that are out there doing construction. So I'm willing to work with anybody that wants to contribute. But after we get that list, we'll do an evaluation and we'll decide what the best thing is to do based on the condition of the road and how much money you have to spend.
I'd agree with that.
Okay, that's good. All right. So let's move on to the next slide up here then. There was also a question raised at the last meeting about an interlocal agreement between the city and the county concerning road repair and rebuild. Of course, we mentioned at the time that we had an interlocal agreement, but I couldn't remember what exactly was in that. We sent that out with the reads, pre-reads last Thursday. I don't know if y'all got a chance to see that. That's been in place since 2012. I think it was in place before then, but it was modified in 2012. So it's been numbers of years where we've done that. It speaks to the fact, though, that this was all about road maintenance. This was basically an agreement between the city of Martindale and the county that said that the county would come over, because we didn't have the equipment or the staffing, would come over and do pothole repair maintenance on their road maintenance schedules. And they did that for a number of years. It boiled down to basically putting cold patch in and running over it with the tires of the dump trucks. And they didn't seem to be lasting very long, et cetera. They would charge us for the materials, is all that we ever ended up paying for, which was really a good price. However, the price that they would charge us, I think, for the square footage that they were doing was actually more than what we get done with our chip seal guy that comes out and sprays it on. So we seem to have found a more longer lasting solution for potholes that we can go schedule on our own time as opposed to waiting for the schedule of the county. And so we haven't been utilizing this interlocal agreement for pothole repairs. However, Mr. Turk pointed out that if they're into road building and we add that to the interlocal agreement, that we sidestep some of the procurement issues that we're going to have if we go out just to go build that. So I raised that issue with Ed Therio after the end of the year. I called him up. We talked about, could we change this? Are they interested in going in and doing a road rebuild, et cetera? His comment was they are not in the road rebuilding business. They're in the maintenance business over there with their county road team. Things like what Mike's described, where they overlay the current road, smooth it out, put a layer down and roll over it. They do that all the time. But to go in there and fix bases or whatever, they would go off and go subcontract that out just like we were. And they were not interested in getting into the road construction business. So his recommendation is that if we have to go down and do road base repair to really fix the roads, that we really ought to go out and do the procurement process that we've talked about. So that's where we're at with that. I offered up that next time that we have our road patcher guy out here, that if to get him and Mr. Leclerc, who's the county road maintenance supervisor, out to view that maybe they would be interested in procuring one of those trucks, at which point in time they would use it all over the county. And then we would go back to we could go back to calling them in to go off and touch that stuff up. So I've got that action to go continue down that path. That'd be great, to see if I can get them to look at it, see what they could go do from that standpoint. All right. With that, those questions that came up last time being answered, we now need to get back to prioritizing a road, picking some roads to go off and go do. So if you go to the spreadsheet that came out, let's look at that right quick. So this is the list of roads for everybody's remembering now. The left-hand side is just the starting column A is just a numbering system, so we can make it easy to talk about them. They are road segments, so when sometimes the road is identified, it's the whole thing from start to finish. But in a lot of cases, it is the natural breaking points that I was trying to break them up into workable sections that either A, had the same problems or were a level of effort that would be approximately the same as other things. So that's where you see Northwest River Road busted up into several different pieces because it's got different problems, and you see Gonzales Street's busted up into two pieces because it's got a differentiation at one intersection, and I was trying to get work pieces that were small enough. Skyview Drive and Skyline Drive are in the same neighborhood, but they're at 90-degree sections, so they're in two. So you get the idea of the way that works. Then we tried to go identify some issues with it. So if you scoot over, we then gave council and myself, everybody 5 votes, with number 1 being the one you'd like to see the first, and number 5 being the last. So pick the top 5. They did that, and when you rank them all so that the low score is the one that comes up to the highest priority, it comes out looking like that. Can you get it all on there? Yeah, it's small. There you go. Wait, column D again, let me remind everybody what that is. CSR stands for, we selected the concrete side strips with a asphalt road in between as the design for that. Those were picked due to the fact that where we had low chance of improving drainage, so that this was all to address the edge issues that we see all over town and the ability to not be able to get the water away as it ideally would be. It is the most cost-effective solution to addressing the drainage issue without actually going in there and installing up below surface drains and or buying people's front yards to install drains or ditches or whatever we would have to go do. And it looks like what Jared's got on the screen. The SPCs were kind of special circumstance areas, mostly due to they were going to obviously have to have flooding control, some kind of special construction that is not just lay down, go in there, rip it up, put it in the right location, build the base down and put the road down. The Y that surrounds the second pack is in there for that reason, because it is not, there's some intersections with 80 that we would have to engineer and do a little special work on. Main Street between Lockhart and FM 1979 was considered a special thing because of the width, because of the Three Rivers Church parking lot is kind of part of the road. Didn't have to be, but it interrupts drainage and movement of water in there. And because the intersections down at the 1979 would end up needing to have some special engineering thought processes to it. And then the Northwest River Road, number N, Northwest River Road between Main and the Shoe Tree, of course, is the piece that goes underwater whenever it rains, as we all recognize this weekend. But it's also as part of the grant that we got in, so that one kind of goes away. So the items in yellow, I think, are things that will require a little more money, and certainly number N, we don't want to go, if we're going to get that grant, we don't need to be spending our money on fixing it just to come back and spend grant money on it. So,
Hey,
so
quick
that's where we
question.
fall out. So the top three that bubble up are Gonzalez Street, both sections are 1 and 3, and then Lockhart Street from the intersection of the Y to the front of the Catholic Church down to Main Street. Those I think are pretty good choices. So with that, so what we need to leave with today is tonight out of the council is an agreement on which roads we ought to go pile into trying to get bids on. This will require that Mr. Turk do his trick, come up with the specifics of what will go into our RFQs, and then be able to support that as we get the bids back. Additionally, we said, well, let's go pick one and let you go do it. I have no problem with saying, let's go build RFQ packets for all of them and see how the money fits. The difference between item A, which is the Lockhart Street thing, is you look out there to column M, it's got a 1,420, 30, whatever that is. That's how long that street is. And we were talking, when we did our estimates, we came up with $100 and something worth of construction, 105, it's up there on top. $106 if we put in the concrete roof strip. That's construction cost for 20 foot. And that was a guess back 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. So when you extend that out at 1,430 feet, we kind of exceed our budget, but that doesn't mean, I mean, that $106 was a guess. It was an educated guess. We got that from DCS, but it could conceivably come in less than that. Mr. Turk probably wouldn't agree with that. But I kind of think that out there, if you ask hard enough, sometimes you get special stuff. So I wouldn't have a problem with saying, let's go do 3 packets, send it out for quotes, you know, and see what falls out. And then if which one of those 3 or 2 of the 3, or, you know, meets the budget, make the decision on which ones to do at that point in time.
Do we want to do the engineering soil study, road-based study, whatever you want to call it, geotechnics, on these roads first, so we know what to request in these bids? So if I'd make an assumption that all 3 of these would require reconstruction of the road base.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, if there's sections of it that wouldn't require that, maybe we could define those areas better as a potential cost savings, but
well, all of those have the sewer under them, and all of those have got spots that are edge deteriorations, and I each one of those, I'd be surprised if anybody could show up and say, oh yeah, this has got a good base under there. You don't need to do this crap.
Yeah.
I mean, those were all put in the 50s, and not much done to them since then. So, Thomas, are you still on there? You still live? Can you speak to us?
I think he chimed out.
Hey,
He's still
can I
there.
say-
This needs to be unmuted.
I'm doing that. Can I say one thing and I'll shut up? I promise. Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Can I ask one favor? Can we at least get the county out there to have a meeting to at least let his road maintenance guy look at these? He's done a lot of roads around here, you know, and at least have an option there to see first of all, if he can do it, or if it can be done, since he's an expert, and he's done it all over the county, and therefore, if he can't do it, I'll be quiet forever on that issue. But if he can do it,
Okay, Mike. Okay, Mike. I'll get you out here. We'll get him out here.
Let me finish. So
Okay.
if it's a viable option, if he says it is, we could put maybe the cost on that and see what that would cost us, and possibly we could do a lot more of the roads. That's all I got. Just at least have a meeting and talk about it for another viable option, if it's possible.
I will try to get them out here. I will get them out here.
I appreciate
It'll come out here, and Donald will come out with him.
I appreciate
that. That won't be a problem, Mike. But I do want to remind you that we've gone over this. You and I and Mr. Turk gone over this now twice already. And you fully said that if the road bases are crap, then we really need to go do it right.
Now, wait a minute.
That's the piece that we need to go. I need agreement out of you is that if we're going to go, if we find out that the road bases are crap, that you will quit trying to be an impediment to this and let us go.
Well, let me finish, sir. Let me finish, sir.
Right.
Now, if you read my email, I said secondary roads. I did not say about Main Street or Lockhart Street. I just said secondary roads. Some of those roads are crap. It's obvious, but those other roads, I mean, the ones Lockhart, Northwest River Road, I mean, I'm no expert. I don't claim to be an expert, but I'm saying, let's let the people that do this for a living, and I'm not trying to insult Mr. Turk at all. I'm just saying it's best to have a couple of heads get together and have a discussion. All I'm asking for, and I don't know if the council agrees with me, it's let's just have a meeting and talk to the guy that does it for a living. That's all I'm asking for, is have a meeting and let's talk about it. That's all. That's all I'm asking for.
All right. We said we would do that.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
It's my understanding, Mayor, that we are specifically talking about the first three items on the spreadsheet. Is that correct? The Gonzalez Street, Lockhart, as well as
Part of Gonzalez.
yeah, basically those first three. Is that correct? That is what we are specifically at hand right now.
That's my suggestion, recommendation is that we go get authorization to to go out for RFQs for repairing those roads.
I have a go ahead.
Okay, shoot.
Okay, so I have a suggestion about that when it comes to listing for an RFQ. My first thought is when it comes to the soil sampling part, I do not know what kind of expense that incurs, although what I do know is that very often engineers and or firms want to have their own vendors do those type of soil samples so that they are current and right at the time that they are creating their bids. So part of that makes me think that should be included in the RFQ so that that fee would be part of what they submit, as well as I would like to see the RFQ be listed for each road individually, as well as all three of them collectively. As we know that very often, the more you do, the less the expense per linear foot or square foot, whichever way they are measuring. So those are my thoughts and suggestions.
Let's let Mr. Turk speak to the soil sample issue.
Sure.
Yeah. He needs.
Tom, what she's asking is should we include the soil sampling and of the substrate as part of the contractor's cost, or should we do that ahead of time so that we can know what we want the contractor to do?
Typically, we'll conduct the geotechnical investigation and do a pavement design as part of the engineering. And then that information is incorporated into the plan as a typical section that tells the contractor how he needs to stabilize the subgrade, build the base material, and come back with curb and the asphalt. we typically do not hand that responsibility off to the contractor. When we go out for bids or RFQ, whatever you want to call it, all the contractors have to bid basically on the same thing. You have to create a kind of a level playing field. Everybody bids on the same kind of work. If you ask the contractor to do his own geotechnical investigation and do his own pavement design, now everybody's not bidding on the same thing. So it's typically done beforehand and incorporated into the plans and the engineering.
Got it. Thank you.
You're
Now,
welcome.
as far as the bids, what I'm proposing is that we would have 3 bids, actually 4 bid packets that go out. One for Lockhart Street, one for JA, the small portion of Gonzalez Street, one for the larger portion of Gonzalez Street, and a 4th one for all of Gonzalez Street, Lisa.
Okay.
Therefore, and then the reason for that is that all of these will be over $50,000. So by law, they got to be sealed bids. We're all going to have a big bid opening party whenever it happens. We'll open them up and we'll look at the prices. We have a defined budget of $128,000. So I can't get these engineering guys to even tell me I can do 1,000 feet of road for something like that. So I'm pretty sure that I certainly can't do them all for that. I mean, we don't have the facts on that, but common sense tells us that bundling them to ask for them all is just going to be a waste of everybody's time.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
However, I do think that we might get lucky with Lockhart Street. We might get lucky with all of Gonzalez Street, but probably going to be down to whichever one fits into the budget by itself is what we'll end up having to go do. But I do think it's important to get on and do one road, okay? We need to, prove the process that we followed works, that we understand how to go do this so that we can repeat it as this money begins to grow and we have more to spend on long-term capital improvements so that we can get more and more roads done. That's definitely beneficial to take the money that we got in hand now and go off and get one done. I do think that it's time to do that.
Agreed.
Dan, you got any questions or comments you want to make before we?
No, I mean, yeah, all I want to do, I mean, right now, what we're trying to decide is just prioritizing these first 3 roads, Gonzalez small area, Lockhart Street, and Gonzalez, the larger portion. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, when we started, it was, there's 27 or 30 or whatever the segments that we've got listed, all of those up there. I wanted to go make sure as we set off down this thing, we had full commitment from the council on doing one of those roads, one of these 3. Initially, it was let's pick the one and go after it. But the more I thought about it, the more I said, we really don't have to do that until we get the money specifics in. And so if we're slick about how we go ask for the bids, it gives us flexibility up to the point in time that we get there. Now, what we really don't want to do is go down do all that work and get all the way down there, and then somebody jump up at the end and say, I really don't agree with doing this road. Let's go, When we leave here tonight, what I'd like to say is that we all are in agreement in the future to say that when we get the bids in, whichever one or multiple ones fit in within our budget, we're all committed to go ahead and go make that happen.
Right.
It's my thought process, and like you've stated, specifically me, even though we kind of did a reevaluation, these roads were put into priority several years ago, and all of them have just continued to deteriorate to a certain degree. Lockhart Street specifically has benefited over the last year and a half based on just surface level pothole repairs. I will say that the 2 sections and or the entirety of Gonzalez Street is not able to be pothole repaired. I personally drove down that street just in the last couple of days after all of the rain, and I'm 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 pretty kind of fearful that there could be some liability on the city's part in relation to, I'm not exaggerating, somebody falling off into a sinkhole on two sections of that street. And so it's my desire to put Gonzalez, both portions of it, ahead of Lockhart when it comes to us deciding, let's move forward with one particular street. That is my recommendation.
I'd like to see the smaller portion go, and let's see how it goes. And if we get a combined RFQ for the whole road, and we find it more, financially, we get a better deal, then let's approach that at the time, at changing it to doing the 2 Gonzalez streets first.
I would like to ask, Mr. Turk, is that a typical situation when you're looking at the length of the 2 sections of Gonzalez, that there would potentially be a better rate for a full repair of the entire street versus just part of it?
Generally speaking, the bigger the project, the more expensive the project, the better unit price you'll get. It's basically economies of scale would give you a better pricing. Smaller projects, you typically get larger unit prices because there's just less cost basis.
Right.
So the bigger the project, the better.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying, Jan, between the distance in feet between the 2 portions of Gonzalez is right at 1,000 feet versus 400 or 600.
We're talking very small distances here, though. I can't imagine economies of scale being achieved with an extra 400 feet. I mean,
You'll get some, but I don't know how much, but you'll get some.
I mean, that's a good point. It's not that much difference.
But then the other part is that if we're going to do a street, even though that street is, has 2 particular sections, but do a street.
Yeah, I like that comment. My gut says bid all of Lockhart Street and bid all of Gonzalez Street and look at the bids and see what you get and pick one or the other.
I like that.
If they fall, the fear is that both of them are too long and they don't fall within the budget.
Yeah, that's a concern of mine. You have 128,000, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at a cost estimate on Lockhart Street of 162, and that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta add in about 6% for inflation since then. So it appears from the onset that there's not enough money for construction.
Okay, can I say another point? That's why I'm saying let's consider what I've suggested, and you've looked at it, Mr. Turk. Let's get with the county and at least have that conversation so we can get more bang for our buck. I mean, it tells me right there we can't really get much done. If we're gonna do a Cadillac plan, what you're trying to do is a Cadillac plan. We don't have the money. I don't know if you disagree with me or not, but I mean, do what the county does and at least have that conversation and have it at least as a viable option for us to consider. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah. Well, when I do my street evaluation, what I will come back with is a range of options that you can do.
Thank you, sir. That's all I'm asking.
And each different option will give you a certain pavement life. Okay. For example, if we just go in there and put another surface coat on what you have, you know, it'll look good for a year or two, and then it'll just, you know, begin to deteriorate, and it won't be
Well-
long before it looks like what it looks like today.
Let's-
Whereas if we went in there and rebuilt the street, you know, it might last really well for 20 years.
Well,
So
Mr. Turk, let's ask that question to the county. When they did the overlay, because the one they did at Old Martindale Road was done a year and a half ago. And I drive that road all the time. It still looks good. Let's ask the guys and ask them what their track record is with this overlay. That's all I'm asking for, is another viable, and then you could give us an analysis on longevity or whatever.
We've agreed to that already, Mike. Why don't
I'm
you
just,
beat
you know
this
what,
dead
I just want
horse?
to have a discussion, because what I'm seeing here, folks, and I don't know if any council person agrees with me, we don't have the money to do the Cadillac plan. I mean, I'm trying to we've got a problem here. That's all I'm
If we
asking.
don't-
Mike,
Oh.
you're correct. We do not have the money to do the Cadillac plan. However, we are specifically talking about Gonzalez Street and Lockhart Street. Lockhart Street might have the base that could
But
endure
let's
an
have
overlay.
the
However,
conversation.
Gonzalez Street does not. Gonzalez
Well, let's
Street
just
does
have
not.
all
say-
I'm asking
We
for.
are talking about trying to get an RFQ put out there and what information we want in it so that we can move forward to find out what it's going to cost in the first place, to find out if we do have any money or not.
That's why I'm asking the question for an alternative situation to use to spread our money out.
We
That's
got
all
it.
I'm asking for.
We got it. We're going to move forward with what you're talking
Hey, you
about.
know what? I don't interrupt you, Lisa. When I'm talking, you talk. You know, have a little respect. You know?
Okay, guys. Okay. So, yeah. Oh, the action for this agenda item was to try to get us to agree on these streets. I think we got agreement. Got violent agreement on which streets to try to go off and go work on first. Now, how we do it, to Mike's point, we're still going to go do some more investigation, but we don't have any prices to compare it to if we don't go out for the RFQs to do it like we think we want to go do, especially Gonzalez. So what I'm looking for out of the council is agreement that that we charge off, spend our time and some of Mr. Turk's time, and meaning our money, on working on those 3 areas, or 2 streets, 3 groups, 4 groups, whatever it comes down to.
And that would
Now-
include soil samples?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would come up with the information to make everybody happy as to what the eventual solution would be, or eventual construction would be. So can we
Yeah, so I'll make,
get somebody to make a motion
Yeah.
to proceed with price RFQs for those 3 groupings?
I make a motion that we proceed with an RFQ for those 3 items that we've just discussed, which would include soil sampling.
So you said the 3 items. So we're going to be doing an RFQ,
JA,
A, and JB.
Yep.
Correct.
Correct.
So we'll have soil samples and RFQs for those portions of the roads in Martindale, of those
Yeah.
roads in
Yeah.
Martindale.
Yes,
Okay. With the soil samples.
yes.
All right.
You
I said,
Do I have a second? Is that you, Jan, to second in it? Jan seconds. All right. Sam, you've been quiet. You got anything you want to say?
I agree with that. I think as we research Lockhart Street and more, we're going to have to really figure out how strategically to fix it because of the residents that live on that street, because the post office being there. Will the street be broken into one half and then the other half and all this? So that is one of the most complicated streets, but it's also the one that needs to be fixed the most. So I will agree to these 3 picks. And then, of course, more discussion will have to be talked about how to strategically do this on Lockhart Street. So I agree with it.
Did you capture that? Was that a yes? Was that a concurrence to the motion?
Yes,
Yes.
that was a long answer. I agree.
Just-
Mike, can I get you to agree?
I
What's
agree.
that?
I
Thank
agree.
you. Thank you. The
Yeah.
motion passes 4-0,
Ah,
and we will proceed ahead with that. Thank y'all for your time and effort. This is one of the biggest spending items we have. It's good to have these discussions. It's good to get concurrence. I think that the citizens of Martindale are always happy with the fact that everybody was engaged in this, so I appreciate that. All right, now on to 8C. Which is our Historic Preservation Commission. And so there are 5 positions on there. I apologize to Mr. Foster. Somehow we got an extra E in his name, I believe. At the last meeting, we talked about calling for volunteers to fill positions on this. We have 1 opening on the Historic Preservation Commission. We also discussed of trying to capture terms and get them into a mode that we have a regular ability to go do this without having to remember and do it at haphazardly at different times, et cetera. And we put that on the webpage, with what you see up there. That's a direct copy off our webpage now that talks about that. So the first item, or this agenda item, is to select somebody to fill the vacancy. We have 2 volunteers for this. One is Catherine Glaze, and the other one is Mark Villalobos. Catherine has previously served on this commission, I believe. Is that correct? Right. And with that, we need to, we're open for discussion. Anybody want to speak to this or not?
Just for clarification purposes, can you redefine or make certain that we are aware of how you want us to do this? Can we just?
We got 1 spot and 2 volunteers. We're going to need somebody to make a motion to, I don't know. I guess we could do.
I'd like to make a motion I'd like to nominate Catherine Glaze. Or is that a motion? I guess not a motion. Should we discuss? I'd like to select Catherine Glaze for this position.
Okay. So Jan said Catherine. Anybody else want to talk? Say today, comment, ask any question. Catherine is here. Mark's not, but Catherine is.
Does anybody want to hear?
Going twice. We have a motion. Anybody want to second it?
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Lisa, what say you?
Nay.
And Mike?
Yay.
It was my understanding that we were going to discuss and make a decision as to who we were going to put forward, which is why I asked that question. And so I did not understand that Jan was presenting an actual motion. I thought she was just giving her opinion as to who she would like to put up.
Well, I wasn't sure either what the
Okay.
procedure, maybe.
I think we kind of got lost in our procedure, because given the opportunity, I would have made a motion for Mark Villalobos to be added to the Historic Commission.
And the reason why I thought Catherine would be a better candidate is that she's been on it before.
And that's the exact reason why I would like to see someone new. And for the other part, that I am under the impression that Catherine has also submitted an application for the Parks Committee. So for the fact that she's submitted for both and only one for specifically for the Historic Commission, that Catherine would be appropriate for the park. Yeah, I mean, that was my thought. I mean, both.
Yeah, well, I felt like that she would have been more appropriate for the Historic Commission than the Parks personally.
I would agree to what Lisa's proposing. I'd rather be on the parks.
Oh, fair enough.
All right, anybody want to change?
Yeah, based on that, you want to either retract or amend your motion?
I still want Catherine.
So we're gonna vote.
Yeah, but she doesn't. She wants the park.
Yeah, she wants the park.
Let the volunteer be where she wants to be.
I totally agree.
Mike's changing his to a nay.
I'm changing mine. I totally agree. Pick which one she
Sam,
wants.
what do you want to say? You want to retract your second?
Yeah,
I'll tie. It's a tie. If you want me to break the vote, I will.
Please.
I think we've heard her concerns, so I guess I'll retract my second then for now.
So with that in mind, thank you.
Then I retract.
No problem. We have one volunteer for one position on the Historic Commission.
Okay,
It'd be
so-
Mark Villalobos.
Yeah, so Jan retracted, so I'll make the motion that Mark Villalobos be added to the Historic Commission.
Thank you, Jamie.
Second.
Yeah, just a second.
Then we're a second.
Okay, and who can we have a second? Sam, you want to be the second again?
I'll second that.
All right, Mike
Hey, I'm favor. Okay.
and Lisa, you already, Lisa did that. Jan, you want to vote
Nay.
nay? Nay,
Nay.
okay.
I think Catherine.
So
would
this
be wrong.
passes 3-1. Thank y'all. That's probably, this was a tough one. All right,
Fair enough.
moving on, before we go to the next one, we had some discussion at the last meeting about changes to the historic preservation ordinance to try to simplify some of this stuff. So that's agenda item 8D. This could be just
We had
discussion.
that first.
Yeah, maybe we should have done those
Yeah.
first. I'm sorry. All right, so what you see is what I sucked out of our current ordinances. The things in red on the screen are suggested additions, except for the ones that struck through, which are in red, but they're struck through because they're there, and I'm saying that take those out. When they originally wrote this ordinance, they were starting from scratch, so they had to pick 5 people, and this was that statement that was in there was to try to get them onto the rotating cycle, so that every year somebody rolls off and somebody else comes on, or at least the terms change. Half the commission's terms change once every 12 months. The reason I wrote this was to try to sync this up with the annual city elections. So after the elections are canvassed, within the next meeting or two, it's time to review these. This gives us the reminder that it's time to go off and make these changes. And it also speaks in here that we're going to assign a place number so that we can keep track of whose terms begin and end where. Anybody want to have a discussion about the proposed changes?
So just the stuff in red is what's being changed.
Mhm.
Yep. I'm saying take out the part that says that the initial term, because the initial term happened many years ago, it doesn't need to be in there any longer. And then add the piece that says, each year, as soon as practical, following normal city elections, this council will review board membership and make the annual appointments. A citywide announcement should be made using the normal communication processes, announcing the potential opportunities for citizens to volunteer for this board. Those who volunteer will be considered by the council
Mhm.
Board positions will be annotated by a place number to assist in keeping term lengths in balance. Now, it doesn't speak to how you go about this. I mean, we struggled with this all the time. I guess we settled on Mayor Pro Tem and the planning and zoning chairperson's selection in a different way than just jumping in there with
Motion.
I believe they're
the
different.
motion.
They're different. They're different positions. They're different calibers of positions.
But we
Between,
could, if somebody can come up with a slick way of how you want to handle this.
what I wanted to do was, let's go ahead and like, who would I like to nominate? Who would everybody like to nominate? And then find out what was the most, and then make a motion.
And we've done that. And we've done that before. And I think that's a fair process.
Yeah, and I think I was trying to start to do that, and I kind of.
I thought so. I thought so.
Okay,
So,
so
Instead of saying normal elections, would you want to set a date, like council will establish or nominate folks on July 1st? On or before July 1st, and that gives you the month of June after the May election to handle that item of business?
that certainly could be put in there, this year's activities, you know, this kind of
wait.
gives
So
you the
we want to start all
flexibility.
over?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if Ken's looked at it, but normal city elections, we might have to get legal review on that terminology.
Okay, Wybar, you out there? You want to weigh in? He was there earlier.
See him,
He's not.
unless he's dialed in on a phone.
He was on listed originally, but he may have lost connection or something. Okay, let's see. We'll highlight normal city elections and put in there that we want to talk to Wybar.
And in the interim, can we go ahead and I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and accept the changes to the historic preservation ordinance 151.03 to clarify terms of office and annual appointment process as
Well, the
presented.
problem with that is if we're going to change this, we don't need to do it twice.
You can do subject to legal review or something like that.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Say it again.
Okay, so I make a motion that we accept as presented the changes to the historic preservation ordinance 151.03 to clarify terms of office and the annual appointment process based on or with the conditions of legal review.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll second that.
All right, Jan? Yea or nay? Did we lose her?
Yes, we did.
Mike, yea or nay?
Yay.
That's 3-0, 3-0 and 1. I guess. Abstention, or non-vote.
You can pass it with that. That's
Yes,
enough.
that's enough. All right, thank y'all. That got that. Moving on to the Parks Advisory Board. So the Parks Advisory Board, we have one vacancy, and Sam has requested verbally to be relieved of duty here as a chairperson. He'd like to, with his roles on the water board and city council, I guess he thinks of that. So we really have two places open for that, and we have 3 volunteers. We have Angela Jimenez, who is here.
If you want to go back to that previous agenda.
Oh, we got to get this one.
There she is. Jan's back.
And
I'm back. My battery
Susan
died on me.
Shaw. So We have 3 volunteers to fill 2 places here. And so let's go around the room this time and see if anybody wants to propose one of the 2 of these people. Well, wait a minute. Now, should we do one at a time?
Ask each council member for their nominees.
There you go. Let's do that. So Sam, you've had a chance to read these
Yes.
activities, and this is the Parks Advisory Board. So you're kind of the expert. So give us your 2 nominees out of these 3.
My 2 nominees will be Angela Jimenez and Catherine Glaze.
Okay, you wanna politic a little on them or not? You don't have to.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that Catherine, based on the amount of time that she's lived here and that she is seen quite often walking around town and walking from downtown up to her house, I think she's very familiar with the landscape and the lay of the land, so to speak. She has and is now belongs to the Friend of the Park, so that's why I would recommend her. And Angela, I think it's great that we now have a new family living on Main Street there, and she's very close, of course, to Guardiola Park, both in distance and sentimentality, and I think she would also be good to help us work on Allen Bates Park. And I like her experience. It says here HOA in Morningwood. So that's why I'm recommending both of them.
Okay, Lisa, let's have 2 out of you.
Yes, sir. My first nomination would be for Angela Jimenez, and my politicking, if you will, is certainly based on the fact that she has served on an HOA board in the past, as well as the fact that she lives a stone's throw from both of our city parks that are downtown. And having boots on the ground and eyes that are right there has merit. So I would like to nominate Angela Jimenez. The other person I would like to nominate is Susan Schoon. For the fact that in her application, she states that she has experience reading and interpreting statutes and ordinances. She has a personal interest in protecting, preserving, and improving community parks for the benefit of residents of Martindale, especially as the city grows. She states with a quote, "No one wants to, quote, pave paradise and put up a parking lot," which is a quote by Joni Mitchell. So my 2 nominations are Susan Schoon and Angela Jimenez.
Okay, Mike, how about you?
Angela and Catherine. Basically, Catherine, like I kind of agree with Sam, both my sentiments there. Angela is a newcomer and she lives right on the edge of that property. So she is right there in the middle of the park system. And Catherine Glaze, as Sam has stated, has been here for many years and she definitely likes to walk and she wants her parks. And I think she would be a great asset to the Park Advisory Board.
All right, and Jan, how about you?
I'd like to nominate Susan and Catherine. I know that, I don't know Angela very well, but I know that a lot of the Parks Committee members do a lot of volunteer work, and it's going to take, strong backs. I feel like that Catherine and Susan would be the best as far as from what I know.
Okay.
Help
So
with
keeping
that.
track, and keeping track here, we've got three nominations for Catherine, 3 for Angela, and 2 for Susan. It sounds like it's Catherine and Angela to me. Somebody want to make a motion that way?
I make a motion that we nominate Catherine, that we select Catherine and Angela for the Parks Committee.
Should we not do them individually?
That's probably a good point.
Oh,
Well, didn't we just do them individually? I
say-
mean,
I make a motion that we select Catherine on the Parks Advisory Board.
Here we go.
I second that.
All in favor?
all right, Catherine, seconds. So that leaves us with Sam, yay or nay on Catherine?
Yes.
And then Lisa, yay or nay?
Nay.
All right, so that's a 3-0, Catherine's, 3-1. Yeah, 3-1, Catherine. All right, there's one. Now, we need a second one. So who?
I make
Jan-
I make a motion for Angela Jimenez to be added to the Parks Advisory Board.
I second that.
Seconds. Sam
Yes.
and who am I leaving out? Jan.
Nay.
So Angela's in 3-1. So we've selected them, and I appreciate that. And Catherine's here, business manager is here. You know, we've tried to figure out a way to do this to keep from hurting people's feelings. Everybody who volunteers around here is welcome. We want people to go do this. It's just the way these ordinances are written, et cetera, that we have to come up with this process, it seems like. And so hopefully nobody's been offended over all of this. Don't take any of these votes one way or the other. You know, we laughed once upon a time and said we need to do it like kindergarten. You put your heads down and you raise your hand, you know, who's in favor, whatever, so nobody gets their feelings hurt.
Well, I
But I
want
appreciate
to say thank you for everybody for volunteering.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so with that, we have got that agenda item done. That's the Park Advisory Board. Now, we also had some suggestions about changes to how we do this. The same, this is our ordinance 93. We've sucked out what's in there right now. Again, the red stuff is just added. This one never had the part that we took out of the Historic Commission. So basically, it's the same process for this paragraph of this suggested changes. Any comments on that? Again, it's an attempt to go solidify, proceduralize this piece that we keep forgetting to do over and over every year as these times come up. So we're trying to get it in the ordinance so we know to do it when it's supposed to be done.
And I definitely think keeping those on the website will help trigger that.
Yes.
Okay, so the first paragraph, everybody happy kind of with that one?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, the next page, there was another paragraph that we had questions about. I don't have any, we need to discuss that. And that is, now you go to the next one, if you don't mind. It's this, buried in the ordinance, it talks about, and this is the only commission that has this requirement that I found, is that every October they have to come in here and make a special report to the city council. However, we never define what they're supposed to report on.
And if I may chime in, because you did task me with determining what that report would be. I did a quick search for large cities, medium cities and small cities. And basically I'll just go with the medium city. I mean, you can look at San Marcos, if you will. As they progress with their parks plans, that are dictated by the council. And so a lot of things happen because they're given X amount of dollars, and in one fell swoop, they're allowed to do multiple projects. And so often that information gets lost. Just like we have an annual budget where we line item all of the different things that we've done and what we've spent and what we project to spend. Because parks tend to be, a hot item in cities because they are sought after, it gives the Parks Commission or advisory board an opportunity to do that same sort of thing. And so as I searched different cities, it was a PowerPoint presentation presented as a report that says, this is where we are, this is what we've done, this is what we'd like to see happen in the next budget year. It was pretty basic.
Doing this in October is a bad idea, seeing how that's after the budget process. This would typically need to be done in July, yeah, at least July or June.
Yeah.
To get it into.
Yeah, that's certainly subject to our discretion. I just, knowing that it was there, it wasn't put there for no reason. And after I looked into it, I saw the merit in having it.
So basically it's what's been done in the past year and what they would like to have done and put in the budget for the next year.
Correct. And the biggest piece, I believe, is to, in a concise way, keep it on the record. Make it easy for however many years down the road, all of a sudden the powers that be change on the Parks Advisory Board, and they want to know, wait a minute, what was the original plan 10 years ago? They can pull those reports in a much more concise way than needle in a haystack under monthly reports.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So what
you ready?
I don't have.
Any more
Speak
discussion?
to us, Jan, or whoever's out there.
Well, I was just going to make a motion that if everybody's ready, I don't want to do it too prematurely. If there's
Okay.
Sam,
Mike, let's go to Mike right quick first. Mike, what's your opinion on having a annual report? October seems to be an obvious, not the right time, but some annual report that lists out projects by cost.
I would agree with you. It should be after the budget sometime, once we have.
Before the budget.
Or before.
The budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
okay.
July.
And Dave, you want to weigh in on any of that?
Yeah, I think that the date needs to be changed October. So probably, as been suggested, midway through the budget year. So what were you saying, June or July?
July.
Yeah, we probably need to pick one.
June.
You want June? You think
Yeah.
June's a better?
July 1st, then. That'll be enough time.
Well, when we think about it, when we have May elections, it's often the first meeting in June that the new council is sworn in. And so you would want those reports to be presented to the new council of each year. So July would make the most sense.
I would agree with that, Lisa.
Me too.
All sorts of reasons.
July, okay.
Okay, what about the other changes? Anybody have any problems with the changes on Part B of the advisory board?
We would have to change normal city election just like we did over here.
Yeah.
I think Kent's back on if we want to ask him that question.
We can. The one thing before we get
I'm
off
here.
the date change. Yeah, just a second, Kent. Before we get off the date change now, the first suggestion was, first portion of this discussion was about new members being appointed right after the election. So May comes around, the election's over, now it's June, we appoint new members. Oh, by the way, you have a report due in 30 days. to tell us what you want to do for the future. But it's only half and they don't and the members don't change necessarily. It's not like,
Right, let's
the terms are 2 years, but you don't have to leave at the end of 2 years. You could go re-up for another 2 years. So I don't know that that's a problem.
You could consider having the report due and the appointments made at the same meeting.
At the same meeting?
So basically, it's like for those outgoing members,
There you go. Okay.
their report is included. That way, they're not working all that year towards a report, and then they're out, and then 30 days later, they get a new team and they swap the report up.
Agreed.
Or something. There might be some use to keeping those things linked.
Okay.
Or at the same time.
So we'll work on that one. Now, back to you, Kent. You still there?
I'm here. Yeah.
All right. We had back that page right there. Can you see the screen? Stuff
Yes.
in red?
Yeah.
The question was, each year, as soon as practical, following normal city elections, the council will review board membership and make the annual appointments. The normal city elections term, is that, question is that what we really want to use? Is that language what we want to use?
You guys can change it to whatever you want to change it to. This is your committee, and you can decide who serves on it, how many serve on it, and how long they serve on it.
In terms of tying it to a normal election, is there a irregular or unnormal election? I don't know.
I mean, I suppose that one could technically categorize delayed elections because of COVID as irregular. Regular elections being the election date that a city is elected to accept under the election code. In other words, you can either select May or November, and there's some rules around that. But I know they're supposed to move to one uniform election date, but we've got those 2 dates. So, yeah, I mean, if for any reason there was a delay, again, someone could say that's irregular. But what I would think it would be is after each election, that's when you would name people.
Well, the problem is we've had special elections for certain stuff along the way that has nothing to do with the council changing, and they happened sometimes on our annual election day and sometimes on the half-year point of the November issue. So that's why the term normal was selected. Normal city election was to try to go say, this is not meant for after every election. This is not meant for, this is changing of the guard time elections. And
yeah, I mean,
I would not say the COVID delay till November of this year was a non-normal election. I would say that we moved the normal May elections to November, meaning that extra 6 months, council members got an extra 6 months out of that, but all activities, as we know about picking mayor pro tems and planning and zoning chairperson, all of that moved with it. Right. And that's what this was attempted to do, is to say, hey, that moves with it. If this happens again, that decision point moves with it. But
yeah, I mean, presumably that argument can be made. All I'm saying is if we want to modify the language and tighten it up, we certainly can.
It's new language. The question is whether if it's regularly understood, if it would pass your legal review to use the terms normal city elections.
Yeah, I think someone that is looking at the language with a fair eye could. I mean, yeah, there's nothing wholly unreasonable about the language.
Okay, then I think we're good then.
Okay, all right. So with that, where are we? We got two pieces to this. There is the change proposed 93.11B And there is the change proposed to 93.11 F4, where we were going to change the date to July 1st, and we were going to add some language that talks about what's expected in the report. We don't have that. What I suggest is let's table this to get the wording right and then bring it back to the council at the next go round. Everybody okay with that?
Oh, help me.
Or you could do the part B and then bring up the F4 later.
Yeah, help me understand the language right. I thought we just made that declaration or clarification.
On 93.11B, that's okay. The language is what we said was you rattled off some stuff, but we need to capture that about what's in the report.
Okay.
And so
let's
until we go get the words down where everybody can read them, I'm uncomfortable with passing what we heard in our ears. I want to pass what we see with our eyes. And so the 93.11 F4 changes need to be
We'll
written
just
down.
use those next time. All right, I make a motion that we accept the changes to the Parks Advisory Board 93.11B, period.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Sam
Aye.
and Mike.
Aye.
All right, that piece passes, and then
I'll make a motion that we table.
well, we don't have to table the agenda item because they were together. We've just passed one piece of that, and we will bring that in another agenda item when we get the wording right.
Fantastic.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to 8G, which is the utility bill write-off stuff.
Oh no, this is a Crockett lift station.
Oh.
Crockett lift station repair. All right, so okay, G. I don't know if I saw this version of the agenda. Okay, so we'll go ahead and discuss it. I'm prepared to discuss it. Unfortunately, I don't have a read ahead.
Well, we already kind of discussed this, didn't we?
We discussed it, but this is a specific account.
Oh, okay.
We have a specific account that is delinquent and is delinquent by over $800, approaching 900, 1,000 as every month goes past. This customer has a restricted or constrained financial resources. They have on a fixed income. They're retired. They have experienced medical hardships in the last year, and given the review of their payment plan application, it's unreasonable to expect them to pay back the amount on a per monthly basis. I mean, if their limited fixed income is such that they can likely barely be able to afford their current monthly billing, according to the documents that were provided. So, unfortunately, I don't have the account number with me. But what I'm requesting from city council,
in my opinion, nor should you say that account number in an open session.
I agree. Shouldn't this be private?
I'm not going to talk about any of their personal details or who this is. The issue I want council approval on is we have a budget item of $3,000 within our budget to pay for write-offs, and and we also have a ordinance regulation that precludes my ability to provide free services. So what I'm asking city council to do is, for this specific customer, write off their existing delinquent billing amount of an excess not to exceed $1,000.
Here is what I would like.
It's okay. I got a new note: $868.72.
Here is what I would like. I would like a report that does not have an account number, does not have an address, and does not have a customer's name. And I would like the information that you are using as justification for such, so that we're not able to fully, I don't feel like we should even fully discuss the particulars. However, just like like I spoke of earlier, we should have a particular criteria. And so I trust the notion that you have, assessed this situation and that you are bringing it to the council. But I do not feel comfortable just waiving that, not knowing certain bits of information. One bit is I did hear you say that they are retired and on a fixed income. However, how long have they lived here? I actually would like to know, you can be retired at 62, but you could also be 92. And I would like to know that. Not knowing anybody's name. And
I would also
Yeah,
like.
they are long-term residents and they're in advanced age.
And so when we are writing off the 800, that does not mean that they're going to stop paying in the future. I mean, as in going forward, we're just going to you're requesting that we just clear the debt so that they don't see that bill at that level and they don't feel like, and we can just get rid of the past and continue to move forward, and they will continue to pay their monthly bill. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
I agree with Lisa.
bring the council up to speed on how this works. I think that helps them do
Fair.
that. So go back to Dwayne's utility profit and loss sheet. Okay. Yeah, it's got to be utility.
There you go.
Okay, go down to the bottom where it says 8052. Okay, the council, see that account that he's waving at right there? It's account number 8052.
Yep.
And we have, for the last several years, we've budgeted $3,000 in there of potential write-offs, this kind of a situation. Now, we haven't used any of it for 3 years, I think. Certainly as long as Dwayne's been here, we haven't used any of it. But what Jared's asking is that he would go in there once we have approval from the council, because the ordinance says you can't do it without the council's approval.
Mm-hmm.
He would go and you look at all the parts and specifics if you feel you need to, and then at the point in time that we say, yep, this is a situation where we're really never going to get the money, it'd be an undue hardship. The right thing to do is just go eat that. We would post the 852 in there as a write-off, and it's like a negative revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps clear up the books. That's why it's important to go off and go do
Right.
this and keep us straight. And it is a budgeted item. We have the foresight to go off and make sure that there's money there to do this if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, we haven't had to do it for several years, but with COVID and the like that's going on right now, it's doing it. So that's what we're asking.
Mm-hmm. So,
But the process is not defined as to how we want to go do that. And we're absolutely correct in not discussing names and account numbers and addresses and all that stuff in open session. But for the future, do we want to do that in an executive session so that we can get to the end right away? And maybe there needs to be a form that we fill out to explain all of it.
I would prefer to not have somebody's name or be involved in the decision or their address, even with the city council. Just
no, we don't need to know.
Yeah, it's the circumstances that control, not the person.
Jared, did you pick this person, or did they ever?
It's not a lottery. I didn't pick them. This is an account that has been delinquent for some time. This is one of the few that are well over 90 days. I mean, they're approaching 200 or 180-day delinquent or something like this. I have been sending notices to the individuals or this customer, and they came in and they actually paid a portion or attempted to pay a portion of their past due bill in excess of what was due for that month. And at that time they submitted an application for a payment plan, and based on the terms of that's required as part of approving a payment plan is, do they have the capacity to pay or perform under that payment plan? And based on the financial information that they submitted with that application, they do not.
Mhm.
So at this point, we can continue to have late notices and continue to handle this as a delinquent account, but there is no means, from what I can tell from this customer, to have the ability to pay their account at this time. And are unlikely to do so in the future.
You know, I'm all for doing this. But is this going to set a precedent? I mean,
So,
One of the criteria is extreme hardship. This would qualify extreme hardship.
Okay.
One or both of the individuals living in the residence experience medical issues. They live on a fixed income. They're retired. They're in advanced age. If someone else came in with the same set of circumstances, I would hope that we'd address it similarly.
so here is what I would like to do. I would like to table item 8G of the utility bill write-off, case due to severe medical hardship and ineligible for payment plan based on ability to repay, to the next city council meeting, which possibly could be next week. And in the interim, would like for Jared to provide the council via email, not the application, but just the specifics, so that those can go on record as this was the decision-making points that this council decided on. One very major key factor for me is that they came in, they voluntarily agreed to try to create a payment plan, and that going forward, if this backlog is written off, that they will be able to pay their regular bill going forward. All of those factors are very, very key for me. That by itself, I agree with Councilmember Bunker in the sense that we don't want to create a precedence here that if you just can't, you can, get it blown off. That's not the case. This is certainly a specific situation. So my motion is not that long. I hope Sylvia cut it off at the end result, but I would like to see just those particulars and have that for the record.
So the motion, as I understand, is to table it and then provide a written report of the facts.
Yeah. Yes,
So
sir.
one thing I'd like to add is that as we speak of it and we speak of this customer, we do not, as you said, know who they are, but maybe there could be some agreement of that customer that they keep it confidential themselves, that the city help them, because as we said, it could start a precedent, but if they also keep it confidential that the city helped them, then it won't get all out, and then we won't have a
we're
bunch of
already
people
telling
standing
everybody
in line.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be reasonable.
I mean, we can ask legal about that, but I don't think the city can tell somebody what they can and can't say. That's up to their
Just say
own.
try and keep it to yourself. That's all. I mean, maybe as
Definitely make the request, but I'd be hard pressed to have them sign a document to anything.
okay. I'm just saying as a request, then we could say, please, we've helped you, and just sort of keep it on the down low a little bit. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. I think.
Thank you.
Public meeting.
What?
These are public meetings. People are hearing what we're
Yeah.
saying.
That's
The
all right.
is going to get around.
Yeah. Okay, We have a motion to table this item until the 119 meeting with Jared providing more details of the specific circumstances. Do I have a second?
A second.
And Mike
Yay.
and Sam?
Yay.
Passes 4 with table. All right. 8H, discussion and possible action on Crockett lift station spares. Continuing saga.
No kidding. All right. We do have, I want to ask Pete to unmute his phone if he can. I believe he's joined us tonight. He might have set the phone down and walked away. Because this is getting a little later than I expected. Oh, you're here, Pete? Thanks.
Yeah, I've been listening
All right.
to you.
All right. So Crockett lift station repairs. So some background. The entirety of Martindale's sewer system feeds into Crockett lift station. All sewer systems lead to that point. And then that lift station pumps the effluent to the treatment plant. So it's a critical piece of our infrastructure. The lift station was designed to operate with the benefit of 2 pumps. However, currently the lift station is operating with only 1 pump and has been for quite some time. That creates a dangerous scenario where if we experience a failure with that pump, we experience a failure at the lift station, and we've run into similar issues of that before, costing the city, $10,000, I think was one of the costs about 2 years ago, under the previous service provider. A series of repairs were initiated and made to reinstall that second pump. We purchased a lift and cable systems, went through a deep clean process. We wanted to make sure that once that pump was in, we weren't going to get it all gunked up. However, when we reinstalled the pump, we discovered that the base, the pipe that it sits on and uses to pump the effluent up to the treatment plant is busted. And so the pump will run and the wastewater in the lift station will just swirl. These pipes are the original pipes, roughly 27 years old. And so here's a picture of what's inside a lift station. And you'll see on the left-hand side, it's the chain and the length, the depth of the lift station, with the pump sitting on top of the base, and then the elbow pipe, if you will. And then at this point, I want to toss it over to Pete, and he can kind of go into more detail if I missed something, or he wants to double tap something I might have said and make more of a point. So go ahead, Pete.
Okay. I'll just bring it up to everybody to ask questions to see what's going on, and I'll try to answer the best that I can.
Pete, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Can you hear me, Pete?
Yes. Yes, I can.
What is that pipe made out of? Is it a steel?
So I think it's ductile iron, I believe.
Ductile iron. Is there any corrosion issues, or was it a corrosion issue bearable?
It is. It's what it is. It's well, those environments, they produce a lot of hydrogen sulfide. It's very corrosive on metal and even concrete. It's that's what happened through the years. That stuff wears out because of the corrosion, and that's what happened. I believe that's what happened to this 90 here on this pump on that illustration that you see there.
Where are you going to go? What type of material are you going to go back with on the piping? The same? Or?
Well, they have to put in that it's like an adapter kit that adapts to that pump setup. If you see that illustration of the pump and that elbow, and did you see like a flange there, and it mates there, and right on top of that flange, you see how it turns on that radius to the top.
Correct.
There's some pipe that goes up there on the discharge. I think it's about 40 feet. That's how long it is. That's how deep the wet well is, about 40 feet. I was there when they built that thing. It was back in '95, and it's fairly deep, and that's what makes it kind of a cumbersome job, because it's, you know, it's kind of there's some challenges involved, because you know, you're dealing with gases and stuff like that, and just different things. Even COVID, you know, nowadays too, you got to watch yourself, you know, and stuff.
So we would go the original material.
Yeah, that would be the best bet, I would think, because if not, you'll PVC. It's too. I've seen PVC in the past in other places, and it's not very durable, because sometimes they'll come apart where you have a flange to flange mate
Gotcha.
there on that. You see, you got this bolted down, and it's a solid piece, you know, and you won't have any problems with that.
Okay, so so it was due basically to a corrosion issue, pretty much.
Yeah, I can give you a good example. It would be like for example, I want to use Steve Fonville. You know, he's got a distribution system. If he gets a broken pipe, you know, and gets a hole in it or a crack, the same scenario here. I mean, you get corroded after a crack or a corroded piece of rust on a pipe there. It'll start to bust out. It'll start leaking and stuff. So it's the same thing that we're dealing with.
Does this have to be special made, or is it in stock? This particular plant?
That's probably gonna that contractor whoever does that, where it gets this work, they're gonna have to fabricate all that. I'm sure they're gonna have to do all the flanges and all that stuff.
Real quick, do you know the wall thickness of that piece of pipe?
I'd be lying to you if I told you something that I'll have to go back and look, you know, and that, because I know.
Well, you know, I'll just say, you know, I did pipeline construction. I know about piping and stuff. I was just curious the type of material. Do we go back with a heavier? Do we go back with, say, was it better to go back with a steel version of it? No, a heavier thickness. I guess that's my questions I'm asking for durability's sake.
Either, yeah, I would think with a thicker wall thickness, I would suspect. That's something I would have to get with a contractor and ask him to see what's out there, you know, what's available for a good quality of pipe, you know, and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would say usually, if you know, I guess based on cost, but if, you know, depending on the wall thickness, you know, if it's a lighter wall, if this one's an example, a lighter wall thickness, maybe for additional cost, we could go with a thicker wall. You'd have a longevity, you know, you'd have a longer longevity. With that particular piece, also, was it painted? Was it any painting or coating on it?
When it first went in, it has if it's ductile iron, it has its own material that comes out on it, whatever they put on there. You know, I didn't have no epoxy or anything like that. If that's what you're trying to ask me.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about. Coal tar.
No, sir. They didn't have any of that stuff on there.
I don't know what the mayor thinks. Maybe, I mean, it definitely needs to be fixed, but maybe we could check and see if we can get a thicker bend elbow there, or a different material, or a coated elbow, something what they would recommend that would be more durable in term, you know. And if we can get to double the service life, you know, it might be worth the additional cost.
Yeah, the thing is you know that this pump here, it's a specialty item. It's made by Flight, you know,
okay.
and they're the ones that that's their product there. That adapter, it's an adapter kit that fits to this pump. So we'd probably have to ask the manufacturer, I guess. So the contractor would have to ask.
That would be what you could probably, given your situation and what they would recommend for corrosion protection or longevity. So did that flange, did that come with that pump originally? Was that the original design? It came with that pump, the original pump.
That's correct. That was everything in there that you see in that picture. It's all original. I mean, it was put in, like I said, it was put in '95.
Yeah, maybe you could take some pictures and send it to them and see what they think, and maybe make some recommendations. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So how old is the pump itself?
The pump is new. I think I think they put that pump in there probably about maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe something like that.
All right, so I'm looking at different prices from different vendors, anywhere from 5,000 to 36,000. How much is a whole
Mhm.
lift station?
Oh,
That's
Top
basically
of my
what it
head,
is. The lift station.
you're
I've
probably
heard
have to talk.
I don't know.
no, for that Crockett, that's probably $300,000-$400,000 thing.
No, okay.
Yeah,
The bottom part.
you were talking about like numbers. You were talking about like for the street repairs and stuff, but in the 100,000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
So
is, this is this 40,000 gallon or 60,000 gallon tank. It's like a swimming pool size thing that's 40 feet deep, and this pipe is down at the bottom of it that has got a crack in it.
Right, right.
So as
Okay, I
when the
understand.
pump comes on and it's all sitting, instead of water going down the line, it of course comes right out the crack. It just keeps re-swirling around it. They've got a good video of what it looks like when it's running, and that's of course how we can tell. But the real cost of this is to A, drain the thing, and then stop everything from going in there while you send poor worker bee down to the bottom of this 40-foot hole that has been filled full of you know what, and he has to change this pipe out. And so the actual cost of the piping is probably minuscule compared to the process of
yeah.
draining it, blocking it all. I think, Pete, don't we have to go plumb around it or something?
Yeah, they're on some of those guys. They proposed and put it in a bypass. The their aeration of air, because they're gonna have to. We have another secondary wet well there that's hooked up to that same tank there that they would utilize to fill that up and plumb in a bypass into the existing piping and that valve bolt and pump it to the sewer plant while they're doing their work in that wet well.
That's where you see those higher prices. I think
Yes, sir.
one of the things I'm not clear on yet is whether these vendors who receive quotes from are quoting on the same thing. And so for that reason, I don't really have a strong recommendation for council yet. I think unless Pete, you can clarify some of those issues between, helping us identify a vendor to go with for these repairs, because those are some pretty wide varying costs.
Correct.
That's what I was gonna ask is what is a recommendation?
Me too.
I would with me, I would go with me personally, I would go with that first guy, the first vendor.
Okay.
And because that guy, I know all these guys here. I mean, I worked around them and they all do good work. Don't get me wrong. They're not just anybody on the street.
Right.
That's their specialty. They build water plants, sewer plants, or whatever. They're in the utility business, and
Okay.
they know what they're doing.
Hey, Pete,
But
Pete,
vendor
Pete.
three is giving you two
Pete, I
answers.
remember in my business, you always take the low, they take the extreme low out, and you take the extreme high out, and you go in the middle. So that kind of
That's right.
sounds good. I guess the only thing, I'm repeating myself, but it would be good if we could see if for an additional cost, if we could go maybe a Dexter heavy wall thickness elbow, if that's something we could consider.
Yeah, because I was thinking that I was looking at the $36,000 that vendor number 3 wanted to charge. For that amount, you can go ahead and get the 2 new pipes installed. And don't worry about it. So. And I talked to Jared earlier in the day. I told him that I always like to get the mid-range price.
Exactly.
But
Totally agree.
Great. So
you get
So
you get
on vendor one, Pete, would we want to go back and ask them for a new quote to do the second elbow? Considering that we had a failure on the, they're about the same age. We had the failure on the one. It's probably an opportunity to replace the other before it fails.
Yes, sir.
What is that a worthwhile preventative maintenance cost, or is that something that it doesn't make a whole lot of difference either way? You're going to replace it when you replace it.
Well, the way I look at it, Jared, is that, if you're gonna go ahead and do one and you're in there already, I might as well do it both, because, like I said, eventually we might be back there again next
You
year.
have it in the budget. I'm tired of this workstation spending us, we haven't spent a lot of money on it, or this lift station.
We have it in the budget. We don't have, there's going to be some trade-offs eventually, I'm sure,
Yeah.
on, what any nice to haves, that were in that maintenance budget. I don't know if we go back and ask them to replace the second elbow, what that's going to do with vendor one's quoted price. Because right now that's just for the one base elbow.
What I was going to ask and possibly recommend is, if in fact vendor one and vendor two are not comparing apples to apples and they're not bidding the exact same thing, I'd like to see that they would.
Yeah, because the only thing I saw on vendor two was that their work plan. They didn't have a very good work plan, I guess. They didn't mention anything about a bypass or anything like that. They didn't show their scope of work, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this certainly doesn't fall into a sealed bid situation, but yet it's still a lot of taxpayers' money. So I'd like to see both 1 and 2. I'd like to see both of those vendors come back with exactly the same repair, and let's see how they play out.
And
Okay.
on both elbows.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Whatever you
And Pete,
recommend.
and Pete, see
All right.
what those elbows are made out of. If one's plastic, one's steel, make sure you're comparing, apples to apples.
No, because they gotta be some kind of a metallic, because they, like I said, they're made especially for this type of pumps.
Okay.
Yeah, they're metal. I mean,
So each vendor would have the same type of
yeah,
flange, basically.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
You always want to have the same thing in
I
there.
agree.
Yeah. And what I'm gonna do with vendor two, I'm gonna go ahead and ask them to give me to see if they have a work plan, and if they're gonna install a bypass or what they're gonna do. And compare both of them and see what.
And
I
all
think
of
to me
those
that'd be,
details. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pete.
that way they can both be. If a question arises, that way they both have their input at the same time. For the same scope of work. So.
And what I was going to say is all of those details are details that we need on our records. So
Right.
in 40 years from now, they can go back and say, "Oh, this is what they did."
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
So vendor
Yeah.
3 is quoted a price range to do both elbows, correct?
That's correct.
I'm reading. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, because that's what I was asking, telling. I don't know a lot of you folks. You gotta pardon me, but I for the price of those two elbows, you can get the two elbows for, I guess, just thinking out loud, I guess $26,000 versus a $36,000. So you could probably be saving about maybe $10,000. Between vendor 1 and 3.
We'll see. We're going to ask them for the quote and make sure we're getting apples to apples.
Okay.
Okay.
There's no action on this agenda item, just a discussion so that y'all know this is coming.
Right.
Rob, can I ask one more question, Rob?
Now.
Sure. Pete, speak up.
Let me ask.
Is it
Just so I can
operating
get out.
now?
Yeah.
Hang on,
So I'm gonna
Pete's got the floor here, just a second. Go ahead, Pete.
I'm just gonna ask, so y'all want one quote from each vendor 1 and 2, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I appreciate the time.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Jan, what did you want to say?
I was just wondering, is the pump operational now with the leaks and everything?
It is. It's running.
The lift station's operational. That pump is not really operational.
It's offline now.
Yeah, so we're just going off of one pump system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot there's 2.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, that get all the questions. Somebody else try to get in there? Going once, going twice? No. All right, agenda item 8.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Pete.
Yes, bye-bye.
Whatever comes after H. G.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay. You have a good night.
Yeah, so on this item, review the final document, future year spend plan. My intention was to, we have the numbers approved, but I wanted to publish a document for the public on our website. And I intended to have that document ready for your review and just ensure concurrence in the language that's included in it. Unfortunately, I was not able to complete that to level my satisfaction. So my recommendation for city council is to table this for a future, if you will, the next, either the January 19th or the February 2nd council meetings.
So that would be discussion item I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I move that we table discussion item I for another council meeting.
Well, you got to pick a date. I would say on or before the first meeting in February.
On or before the first meeting of February.
I'll second it.
Pam, you okay with tabling it?
Yes, aye.
Mike, you okay with tabling it?
Yay, yes.
Done. We're on to future items now. Let's see here. You see the list, and earlier, somebody, can't remember who said wanted to put Parks recommendation for phase 1. I guess that was
Yes.
you said.
Yeah.
So we'll put that on there. Anybody got anything else they want to add to the list? We still got your grant advisory commission, Mike. I mean, it's 9:30.
No problem. I appreciate it.
It'll come.
What about
Anybody else got-
that section on the ordinance of the park that we have to finish up? That would be pretty quick. Needs to be
Yeah.
written. And then this discussion, you want to put the action item I on February. I mean,
Yeah.
February. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a reminder to include in a future item, the utility ordinance, a hardship procedure like we discussed.
Oh, yes.
As well as I'm assuming at our next meeting, we will get the blotter that we would have gotten this meeting.
Sure. I hope so. He's not dead.
Yeah.
I did talk to Harry today. He is alive. He sounded a lot better. So I think he'll be here Thursday, but he's got a lot of catching up to do. 2 weeks is a long time to be out. So.
Yeah.
And then the zoning ordinance discussion of the changes thus far.
Mm-hmm.
So
The definitions of the terms.
definitions of terms and other related items and use table.
Now, are these items that are going to be on the meeting for February, or we're going to have a meeting next Tuesday?
We're going to have a meeting next Tuesday.
Is that specifically planning and zoning?
No, doesn't have to be.
Okay.
We can put the planning and zoning definitions in there if we have it. Now, I say that, we got a city holiday on Monday, right? So.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, we do.
That shouldn't be a problem when we post it. It'll be the meeting should be posted this Thursday. So the fact that
They had a
we're
problem, anybody's gonna have to do it.
Well,
If we post Thursday, we're fine. If as long as the agenda's light,
Yeah.
I have. We can basically it's a review in progress.
We can try to
at whatever
get.
point on that. We just review whatever that's at. So
We'll get a couple of these in for next week. So we're gonna plan on having one on the 19th.
okay.
We'll
Okay.
work on that and get
Gotcha.
it before then. All right, that brings us to adjournment. Anybody want to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I second.
Sam, you in favor of leaving?
Yes, aye.
And Mike, I'm sure.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, Rob, so you said you may not want to run next